Lee Hutchinson is a versatile performance artist from Belfast, Northern Ireland, whose creative endeavors span tattoo design, video editing, content creation, and magic. He played a pivotal role in building the internationally acclaimed magician Julius Steen's Facebook page, which became the world's most popular profile during his tenure, amassing over 60 million subscribers and billions of views. Lee has found much success in life and is no stranger to setbacks. He spent months in chronic pain that left him largely immobile in his arms and hands until he discovered a novel healing practice that reshaped his perception of pain. Now, pain-free, Lee focuses on transformational videos where he helps the homeless in India by bathing and dressing them in clean clothing. Today, Lee reached a major milestone of 1 million followers on Instagram, and he did this in less than a month. He is an expert in growth with an obsession for trying out new ideas no matter how crazy they are until he finds what works. His infectious personality, lighthearted pranks, and remarkable storytelling bring joy to wherever he goes. Lee, welcome, my friend.
Wow, what a beautiful welcome. Could I get that after?
That
is such a beautiful synopsis, and it's interesting to hear it constructed in that in a dense, because it's been such a journey. It's been such a ride.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do with this, and trying to condense someone down just to one paragraph. And every time that I've looked into the person who I'm interviewing, there's so much complexity under the hood. And and then with you, there were so many things that I was finding. And I appreciate how you kept the pictures in your Instagram from early days still on, and I was so surprised, or I guess not surprised, but it was wonderfully it was wonderful to see that you started with travel at such a young age, and you were a tattoo artist as well. You won a competition, I think, when you were 19 or something like this, and so just being able to look into all that was cool, and then just condensing it into this was tough. But I'm glad you approved.
Yeah, it honestly sounds like ChatGPT had like a malfunction and got confused between multiple personalities and like made this weird concoction of many different things. But there's a lot of similarities between it, and I want to get into the similarities because although they seem different, at the core there's elements that shine through all of them, and it's kind of how I've ended up where I'm at today. Yeah, is sort of an emergence of all of these traits sort of in a way coming together, like this random crash course that merges together to create this streamlined kind of, this is who I am and this is what I'm about. And I'm in this space of my life now where I feel that, I can see that, and it's really exciting. It's the most clear, yet the most overwhelmed I've ever felt, and I feel amazing with it.
That's awesome. And I know Steve Jobs has said this quote where it's like, you can't connect the dots until you look past. And there's so many different things that you've gone through, knowing you, getting to know you, and getting to catch up with some of your friends, Tom Elderfield being one of them. And looking back with this clarity, what do you think the common thread is between all of these big moments?
That's a great question. I definitely think that the biggest thread is human interaction. Connecting with people and sharing life with them through, as it's been proven, all of these different mediums. Magic was the centerfold. Tattooing was never about the art. It was about the experience of meeting new people each day. Because I would wake up, I was 17 and 18 at the time, and I go into the studio, and every day I would be greeted by 3 people who have came to me with the commitment that I'm going to permanently mark their body for life. Wow. And it was a bond that was incredibly intimate. There was a lot of trust. I would go deep real fast, and within my conversations with them, it was a therapy class. It was basically therapy. So the excitement of that was really beautiful, and it was the connection. It was really the human interaction, the meeting them, talking to them, inspiring them, hearing their story, trying to in some way open their perspective to what they think is possible. Where I come from in Ireland, it's a very limited mindset. People are very much stuck in the same routine. It's very judgmental, it's very harsh, it's very cold, and you feel that with the energy of the people. So for me to come along with all of this positivity and curiosity and abundance of kind of like love and care and you could do that and optimism, it almost was like this infection. It was almost like this, I could spread it into them and I could see it ignite within them, sort of this soul and purpose. And so that was a very fun stage of my life. Incredibly unexpected. Went and got a tattoo. The boss asked me, what am I doing with my life? I said, I'm a magician. But I used to study art at A level, which was the only A level that they allowed me to do, because I actually got kicked out of school. And they basically let me back into high school with the commitment that I wasn't allowed to do magic and I had to really excel in my grades. And I didn't do either of those. All I did was magic. I didn't stick to what they said. All I did was magic. I fell into magic more and more, and my grades suffered heavily. Within 3 weeks, they kicked me out of the school. So I was left on my own. All I could do was magic. And I had all this time during the week to do something. Yeah. So I ironically got a tattoo at the time from doing a lot of travel. We got this tattoo here called Adventure. And the boss of the tattoo studio, he was doing it, and we were in the conversation, and it was evident that I had time. I said to him, I used to be a artist to some capacity, and the next day I had a job with him, and I was his apprentice. And it was such a very interesting journey in my life. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but that gave me such an opportunity to meet people, but also it gave me almost an incubator to test ideas with magic, which was really fun. So everybody that came in, they imagine, a tattoo artist to be covered in tattoos, oh yeah, macho man, quite very masculine, kind of a little bit intimidating, piercings. And you would get that. That's what my boss looked like. And then you would get me. And then they would see my boss and they would look at me and say, I thought you were the receptionist or something. Or I thought you were like the delivery man. What are you doing working in a place like this? So during that process, I got the opportunity to perform magic as well, because I'm talking to them, I'm telling them that I do magic. It's my real passion behind this, and it would create this space where I could just test ideas every single day, and it was so fun. And so that's how that happened essentially.
Well, I'm really glad that they kicked you out of school for magic, because there's so much of your life that really comes from that. And do you think? So I'm curious how you were able to spread the joy and the energy in a world that didn't necessarily offer that. How is it that you were able to necessarily find those people? Was it through these individual interactions by tattooing, or?
So it was through the tattooing, but truthfully, that was a muse.
Yeah.
Right. I had no choice at who came in, but it stems from something deeper within inside myself, that I have this abundance to maybe there's an element of attention seeking. Maybe there's an element of when I was a child, was I really seen? Was I really heard? My mum was an alcoholic. My dad was a workaholic. The family was heavily divided in many ways. So I was subconsciously seeking attention. And my muse at the time, whenever I was 14, 15, was magic. That's how I could get attention from the family. That's how I could get appraisal from my dad and from my mum. So there's an element of that intertwined into it. And I always looked at that, and I always, I guess, seen it as like a negative thing, that why am I different? Why do I crave attention? And I always, now I'm really seeing it as sort of my superpower, as something that's unique to me. Mm-hmm. Of course, I have to manage it and maintain it and be cautious with it, and not get too carried away with it, and not let the ego run it too much, and be intimate with it. But definitely, there's definitely it definitely stems from my childhood, like now that I'm thinking of it, massively. Yeah. And magic was just the muse, and these people were just the muse. But I knew I had something. It's a funny thing to explain. You just knew something was different, and it felt so right. Like, I felt amazing every time I done it. Every time I met somebody, I love it. I absolutely love it. If you wanted to torture me, just remove humans from my life. And I'm sure it's obvious that it would hurt a lot of people, but for me, within a day, I'd be crippled, completely crippled. So connecting with people, meeting new friends, breaking that ice before the ice is there to break is also a really fun thing that I love to do. So I'll straight away, like you've seen it yourself in the rug club, I'll just go in really hard straight away and just say something absurd or do something silly, because I can and it doesn't affect me. And then it relieves so much pressure and tension that everybody holds. this societal kind of what other people think of me, how they act, how I should act. We're playing this sort of game of like interaction. We're all meeting here. So for somebody to come in and just do the dumbest and silliest thing and put it all on him, it's the ultimate form of like self-deprecation that everybody just goes, this is actually pretty chill. If he's just done something so idiotic for the purpose of pure entertainment, it helps everybody else. So it's almost, I now see it as my superpower. It's almost like I can help a lot of people with this. I can share it. There's massive reward that comes out of it, and gratification that comes back to me, which is really nice.
And you're truly captivating when you do it. And I've seen videos of you performing magic, and I've also been. I mean, you were just performing magic just in the studio right before this office, and it really does allow for a collective sigh for people to relax and just be themselves, which is amazing. I think that's one of the many superpowers that you have. And what do you think is it that makes magic so universally loved?
I think we have this construct at how life unfolds, and we're constantly figuring it out, right? We live every single day in the same sort of goalposts, if that makes sense, the same sort of rules by this game. Mm-hmm. And magic is one of those things that comes along, and it's kind of like this little glitch in the matrix. It for just a moment, it completely disassembles everything somebody thinks should be real or possible, just for that little moment. And for that little moment, it takes them out of this. And I think a huge part of this is programmed by the adult brain, right? As we get older, things get more serious, things get more linear, things get more boxed in, things get more controlled and has more processes to it. And you see it through a more analytical kind of sort of structured mindset. And just for a moment, magic snaps you back into being the kid of just wonder, in pure emotion with zero construct on top of it, if that makes sense.
It completely does. Yeah.
And so it has that again, ice-breaking effect where it just for a moment, and you can make people pause and giggle, and we live a life where we are so caught up in everyone's emotions and constructs of their own life, their limitations, their beliefs, how they perceive life, how they follow it, and a lot of that is generational, given to them by their parents. The whole routine in which you serve your life, how you eat your food, how you drink your coffee, how you think about partners, and how your relationships are constructed. These are all passed down through generations. And magic is one of the few things, just like music, where just for a moment it can snap all of that, and you return to your childlike self with no limitations, no perceptions on things, just pureness of heart, of soul, of love. So I think it has it's profound in that sense.
It's completely profound, and you're thrown into the presence in the now.
Yeah.
And I cut you off, but it's so wonderful how it does return you to that state where you can just play and have fun for just an instant.
Just an instant.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The presence behind it as well. It brings you into the moment. That's if it's executed correctly. If it's executed horribly, you're just like, my construct is right. Yours is broken. The matrix is true, It's fascinating. It's fun to play with. Magic, I guess everything sort of centers around magic for me, because it isn't just about smoke and mirrors. It's really about the idea of anything's possible. How you think it works is probably not how it works, and life usually tends to be a lot simpler than we perceive it to be. So everybody always says to me, every time I do a magic trick, can you teach me how it's done? And I'm like, I could. You're really not going to like it, because you're going to feel dumb and silly when I teach you. It's so incredibly simple that we look at something that's so amazing, and we have to apply this sort of Einsteinian kind of theory behind it at how to deconstruct it. And in doing that, we miss the simple things. We overlook the simple things. We overlook just common thoughts, if you were to look at it objectively, how you would execute something. And it's the exact same in life. It's the exact same whenever you go to set a goal, whenever you have a dream, whenever you have a passion. How do I do this? And you create this huge mental roadmap of what it takes. And then you're sunken by it. You're drowning within that of all these things that you need to take care of, rather than just seeing it for the simplicity and taking each step at a time and understanding that each step at a time is going to evolve and change, and nothing's concrete. So there's almost an element of the psychology behind magic, which is in a weird way applicable to just a lifestyle, a mindset, how you perceive life, how you live your life. So I find that very interesting. I find the deconstruction, every time I learn a new trick, or my magician friends, yes, in the magic circle, I have magician friends, we all link up and show each other tricks. When they show us something, or you see something, and it catches you off so good, you're just like, oh, what a joy. Oh. What a joy not to have that worked out, or what a joy for a hit to... And then when you find out how it's done, and you realise it was so simple and easy to do, that you're just like, of course, you know? It was naive of me to think that it wouldn't have been that. In many ways.
You still get the moment, even as a magician.
You still get the moment, and it becomes sweeter and sweeter, but less frequent, of course.
Yeah.
But when it happens, you're like, I'm still human.
Yeah.
I'm not meant to have this world worked out.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and so it sounds like there's so much of a desire by humanity and people to overcomplicate something when you can just really strip it down, and with magic, it's just. Hey, the trick is really just simple, and the one that you just showed today was the disappearing pen, and you did awesome sleight of hand where you put it behind your ear, and then you came back, and it was so joyful. And so when looking on how that applies to life, we all try and overcomplicate everything in life. How do we strip it down to what we want and what we need?
I think a good parallel to this is relationships, and then on top of that, marriage. I think marriage and relationships, they carry such a pre-concept of what that should be, and every time you meet somebody, or you're maybe in a relationship right now and you're thinking the next steps is going to be marriage, that carries such a sort of pre-constructed package of what that is. Everybody knows it, you know it, you've learnt it from somewhere. It lives in the society. It's this framework that's essentially, not to sound too Ubudian here, but it's essentially like this framework that's been created by society over hundreds of thousands of years that you download, and then you have to integrate it into your life. Rather than just seeing truly what's the purpose behind it, you love this person, and just living with that, and just living with like what works with you two, communicate between you two. It doesn't have to be this program that goes over the top of you. If you just started from the source with you and them and spoke directly, and then created your own program on top of that, A, it takes so much stress off you, and B, you control the parameters of what suits your game. Everybody's game is different, you know? So we live in a world where a lot of the constructs come from the world, where our worlds are subjective. It's not objective. You know, you live in a different world to me. How you see things is different. And that's amazing. That's where the magic lies. You build your own game. You know, you want to do a morning routine, don't go and copy David Goggins, because most likely you're not David Goggins and you will fail. You might take elements from it that you'll find that you like, but do what suits you. Learn from other people, get inspired from other people, but don't feel that you are a failure because you can't do David Goggins' morning routine. And that, gosh, I must be a failure. I can't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's, again, this is, you're downloading somebody else's pack, right? You're taking somebody else's phone and putting their app on your phone. And it's not going to work. It's not going to integrate. So that, I don't know how we've got here, but that's essentially what I'm like. Yeah. That's essentially, I think, how magic can have because it strips it back. You see the core of things, and then you can actually look at things and say, maybe this just doesn't feel right for me. You know, maybe this idea of whatever it could be just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. No, this what you just described, I think, is such a cool thing that I observed understanding you more, which is there's so many inputs in the world, so many things to try and understand, but who knows what is right for you, where you have such an obsession over testing and testing and testing and testing, and then taking in what is beneficial to you. And when you are deciding what is something that you should implement in your own life, how do you make the decision on this is like a hard habit and but I just need to get used to it, versus like, oh no, I clearly know immediately this is something I should have?
It's really difficult. I think it's fair to say that you will never have it worked out, nor will it technically ever get easier. You will just learn how to cope with it better. That's the first thing. Mm-hmm. It's like whenever you do an ice bath, the water never technically gets warmer. You just learn how to control your breathing more and how to be more calm in the moment. So how do I figure out what's a hard task and I think you feel it deep down, you know what is needed, right? And I think that's a fundamental gut feeling that you have with life. You know what is right for you and you know what's not. Implementing it will be a complete disaster in many ways and a massive success in many other ways. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's this try and test and, okay, this didn't work. And not being too hard on yourself, that it does need to be this kind of linear graph to success. Because I don't think success is even defined in like a linear way. I don't think you ever truly, again, become successful. You learn how to appreciate what you have and to change your perspective to it. Like, as you said, I just hit 1 million followers and I feel absolutely nothing from it. It's so evident to me that it's funny to look at it when you don't have followers and to think that, gosh, I need that to have this. And it's just became so evident to me that you don't need anything. All you need is to train yourself how to feel it now, how to feel that sense of abundance now, and to appreciate what you have. Because there's always levels to life. There's never an end game. There's never a final point where you say, I'm here now, I'm in heaven, put the feet up and relax. That will never come. So it's really just about adopting that mindset and feeling it now, which is a massive thing. And knowing that it's never, ever going to be easy. The point of this is not for it to be easy. It's going to be difficult. Many things help. Fitness. I think you have your core fundamentals, which I think anybody, if you don't have it, get your health in check, get fit, move your body. There's so many core fundamentals to life that I think when you fill that checklist, you're pretty much invincible. And anything else on top of that is what you want to do with your time. But if you get your health on track, you get your diet on track, and you get your relationships on track, and most importantly, your relationship with yourself. You do a little meditation, you do simple gratitude, you go for a walk on the beach, you spend time with your dog, you care for your kids with true presence and intimacy, you go for that little run, you go to the gym, such small little acts is all it takes. You know, I meet a lot of people that are unhappy and depressed, and it's like this depressive kind of epidemic that's overtaken Ireland. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, you're out of weight. It doesn't surprise me that you're feeling negative. I'm young, I'm 26, I'm fit, I'm healthy. If I don't move for a day, no matter what I do, I'm not going to feel great with myself. If I eat 2 big pizzas of Domino's, I'm going to feel really bad. So it's just understanding that there's fundamentals to being a human and how to have that steady baseline. And then from that, then you can implement all of these other amazing tools that we have. We live in such a world of science, of abundance. We have Andrew Huberman on tap whenever we want. You know, there's podcasts about everything. Yeah. So we have this incredible access. And I think that in itself is also intimidating. Don't be intimidated by it. Be selective and consume and try to find out what you need. But there's so much information out there to consume, to learn so many amazing things about how to build and navigate your life.
And there's one of the most interesting pieces of advice that I heard was from Matthew McConaughey talking about something, or talking to someone, and he says that you should always ask the question, but you should always follow it up with your response. Mm-hmm. You put the question out there, and you shouldn't look for the world to answer it. You should give your own response so that you can come to your own definition.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. I think Matthew McConaughey is a true inspiration and light. Yes. You know, he embodies pure authenticity. And that's another thing when we talk about these constructs are pulling you away from who you are, what you want to say, what you want to do. The moment that you can just start authentically being yourself, and I know that sounds incredibly simple, but yet it's probably one of the hardest tasks on the planet, is to do and say what you like, when you want, under your terms, under what feels right, with your own guidance. That is when I feel you will start to shine very bright from the inside, and all the pressures and weight of life will come off you. And it's just from following that inner voice, that inner guidance of, no, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe this isn't right for me. Maybe this idea of, maybe I don't want to have a credit card. Maybe I'm actually against the concept of cards. do whatever you want, but do what you want. That's the most important thing. You know, we live in such a conditioned world that is so structured now. It's got so many elements to it, and that can also get heavily overwhelming. Which is why I think ballet strips back so much of that, right?
It's ballet, like
Bali,
the,
yeah, this
the
island,
dance.
yeah. Well, no,
Bali, yeah,
Bali,
sorry.
this island, yeah. It strips back
Yeah.
so much of that Western world patterns that we live with. You know, you don't need a license to drive a bike here. So there's all of these things that just objectively you're like, this feels. You come here and I'm like, wow, this place is on a completely different wavelength. You know, it's a great freeing space in many ways. Yeah.
No, it is. It's super. It's wonderful how when you strip it down, there's so many basics of just, hey, I just need to. I'm really just trying to drive from A to B. I mean, there are, reasons for a license in certain places, but I like that as an example of I'm just needing to drive from here to there, and we don't need to overcomplicate it. And I believe Elon Musk said this, but there's often we push so hard to get policies put into government, but no one ever is working towards removing policies. Is that there's always more and more and more, but there's not reduction of less of getting to, okay, hey, what's the point? And stepping back and bringing self-awareness or reflection into decision or setting things up. And I think it's really wonderful. And
I feel like America is the pinnacle of that, of just rules and structures, right? It's like this baby that the Western world gave birth to with just more room for politics. And politics are messy, and you have your own internal politics with yourself that gets adopted into you.
yeah.
What would I say? I'm trying to think for myself. What would I say to the young version of me at how to be authentically yourself? Do you know, one of the strongest things that I always would say to people, and what I touched on earlier, is go and get embarrassed, right? Like, when you think about what embarrassment is, it's the pure idea of the outside world perceiving you in the wrong way that you want to be perceived. So you already know how you want to be perceived in some capacity, and you're scared that it's not going to align with the outside world. So by just going and getting embarrassed, it triggers that response. It's the ultimate fight between those two things. And you realize that there's no consequence whatsoever from the outside world. The only consequence comes from the inside world that you project on what you think the outside world should be doing or saying, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. The fear exists, and your voice is the loudest one that speaks fear. It's not anything externally that's saying, hey, don't go and practice magic.
100%.
This is your own voice.
Like, I'll give an example. You go up to a girl.
Yeah.
It's not what that girl actually thinks that's going to affect your life, right? Even if you be the biggest idiot to her and you trip and you fall and she's laughing almost at your she's just finding the whole conversation hilarious. You think that a bad outcome of that is her perceiving you bad, but it's not. It's only your own perception on it. It's only you thinking that she's going to say about it is how it becomes bad. It's not bad or good. It's not anything. It's just an experience.
Yeah, and it's once you go and do it, you realize that wow, there's no fear about this at all.
There's nothing to lose.
Nothing.
Because you had nothing to begin with.
That's wonderful.
Do you know what I mean? You went into it with absolutely nothing. In fact, there's only anything to gain, and I would nearly argue that you have more to gain from losing than with them winning. To be honest, if you won in the conversation, well, you haven't really strengthened anything within yourself. But the moment that you lose, you realize that there's nothing to get burnt from here. There's no fire to get burnt from. You learn more about yourself. You learn more about your attitude, about how you perceive yourself. You realize that to some capacity you're invincible, that the outside world has no effect on you. So the biggest thing that I would say is like, go and feel more. In a broader sense, go and be embarrassed more. Act like an idiot on the dance floor, sure. Go speak to that ridiculously hot girl that you think you have absolutely no chance in getting with, and go and do it, and experience that joy of that experience.
Realize you're bulletproof.
Realize you're bulletproof, which is another reason why magic is so fundamental, because in magic, I remember doing my very first magic trick, and I was so nervous. And with magic, it's inevitable that you will fail because the only way to learn it is to do it. There's no practicing. You can only practice so much in front of a mirror, but there's no practicing with. It's a thing between two humans. It's two human experiences coming together to perceive something together. It's a storyline. You can't do it to yourself. You can sing to yourself, but you can't perform magic to yourself because you need magic. You need a mirror to bounce it off, if that makes sense. And it gives you this ultimate amazing ability to constantly feel. The amount of tricks, I reckon I have messed up more magic tricks than I have performed good magic tricks. As, you know, growing up through all, you know, I basically messed up a trick with Messi. Complete disaster. I couldn't post the video. And I walked away laughing. It was genuinely one of the funniest experiences. Like, I got so much more out of it almost than doing a good trick.
Such a lesson.
I've seen so many people mess up with magic. So magic is almost just it's an example. You don't need to do magic or to not be able to make mistakes with magic. But there's a beautiful lesson there that definitely, man, you have to learn how to be embarrassed. You have to go through that difficult period, and that's where you'll find real growth.
Yeah.
You know?
You are someone who goes so fast and flies by the seat of their pants, and it is so inspiring. It is so wonderful to be around, and it sounds like performance art has been so instrumental in learning how to do that.
Yeah.
And no, it's incredible to be performing all the time, and then just, oh fuck, I messed up, so I just need to make it up on the fly and keep going. And how has that helped you in other areas of business or relationship?
It's helped me massively with relationships because the beautiful thing with magic is, and I was explaining this to you the last day, is that as when I sing a song, it's evident at what the song is going to be to some capacity, right? You can kind of learn the melody, you can feel the tune. If he all of a sudden picked up a different instrument and started playing it, you would notice it. Your ears would pick up on it. There would be a difference to notice. Whereas with magic, the outcome is unknown until it happens. So they're in the dark the entire time. So most people, magicians probably mess up 50% of every single trick they do, right? They probably only mess up the entire trick every 2%. And the reason is because you don't see when they make the mistakes. They're constantly adjusting. They're constantly changing what the outcome will be. The amount of times that I've done a trick, it's going horribly wrong. I have to improvise in the spot to come up with a new outcome by utilizing what I've created so far to then do a full 360 and go a completely different direction. And that person is asleep. They don't realize any of this is happening. It's always learning to be 2 steps ahead. So there's been an element of that with relationships, that when you meet someone, there's an expectation of what this could be, and learning just to be totally in the present with it, take each day as it comes, and to be fluid with it. In many ways, sorry.
No worries.
But to be fluid with it in many ways. So it's definitely helped me in relationships to some capacity. I'd say the biggest way it's probably helped me in relationships is understanding people. So you get to learn people really well. You get to see through people really well. So it's really good. It builds a really good intuitive gut feeling on things. So I can usually suss it out really quick. I know that this is going to be a massive waste of my time, or there's a huge success here, or there's maybe a difficult patch that I'm going to have to navigate, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's definitely helped me with sales and with selling myself and with meeting people. And whenever I do any form of business to any capacity, it's there because I feel like I can negotiate and talk my way faster than they can keep up. And I can be very responsive to really anything life throws at me. To whatever way the conversation can go, I'm pretty much able to bounce back quite fast and to think ahead of it and to stay on top of it. So it's been really helpful in that sense. And also just in a confidence aspect. So whenever you meet somebody, imagine we just met in the street, and there's always going to be that sort of awkward kind of interaction of, hey, my name's XYZ, and there's almost a pre-registered kind of flow at how this is going to go. Hey, my name's Rob, my name's Lee, oh, you're in Bali, cool. And you can kind of expect how it's going to go. And eventually that will trickle out. That can only last for 4 or 5 things. And then you're in the gray area where it's like, okay, now you have to keep this going with your own flow, and I have to keep it going with my own flow. So I can almost hijack that, and I can keep it going as long as I want, because it gives me this inner confidence, this inner ability that if they stutter, or if they start to get nervous, I can step in and I can help them. I can start to lead the path. I can start to throw things at us. I can break the ice with us. If you're behaving in a certain way, maybe you're quite tense, I will know how to untension you, and I'll do something silly on my end to make you laugh at me, so that the power dynamic is shifted. And so there's always a way of like mingling and creating friends, and it's helped me the most definitely in my social life whenever I meet people. The pressure of like that expectation of how the interaction is going to go or how it should flow, you have so much more control with it. And it all stems from everything that we've spoken before, but really it gives you this amazing power of like, I'm really good now at meeting friends,
Yeah.
which is incredibly exciting, because you meet dope people and you attract people, which is really nice. The more that you put out, the more that will come back. And you only start to notice that whenever you forget that you're putting out so much. It becomes your normal, it becomes your natural. And abundance will start to come. And you attract people. You realize that you can become the bridge between other people. So two friends could subconsciously come to you, and then they have a bridge of safety to some degree that they can then communicate between. Because you're easygoing, you're funny, you're confident, you're really laid back, but you're supportive. And you can do all of these things that you can look at people and you know, I could help you here. The amount of times that I've went over to a friend talking to a girl that I knew that he was struggling with, and I was able just to like, do my little thing, you know, keep him up, pick him up, just, you know, make her laugh, do something funny on me, make both of them laugh on me. Now they've got something to talk about. So many little things that you can do. So it gives you a superpower in that sense, in many ways, which is really nice and really fun to play with.
You're a communication expert.
To some capacity. Sometimes I'm horribly bad at it, and I laugh at like, Jesus, what did you just say? But yeah, it's trained me a lot, and because you have to think in your feet. With many things, you have to be responsive. You have to learn how to navigate it in a certain way that even when it seems predictable, you have to be ready for it not to be. And when it's not, then you're ready to step in. It's hard to explain. It's something that you just naturally develop. But it's awesome. It's probably the funnest thing, because I love meeting people. It's all centered around meeting people and bringing people together, which is why I've sort of navigated to doing what I'm doing now with social media, which is a whole other thing altogether, but yeah.
No, the energy that you put off it feels as direct. It directly comes from the energy that you gain from other people, and then your choice is to grow it and give it back and make it so abundant. And no, it's felt wherever you go. So even right now,
yeah, we're charged. We're like, we're about
charged.
to explode.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And you started talking about your next thing, which you're focusing on right now, which is Instagram the current social media focus. And talk to me a little bit about this. So you go to India and you...
Yeah, so go to India.
Uh-huh.
Went to one of the biggest weddings of the planet.
Yep.
It will be the most expensive wedding of the decade.
Okay.
It's called the Ambani wedding. They're the third richest family on the planet. And I went, never seen anything like it. These guys had built Disneyland in the desert. There was a shopping mall. There was roads, infrastructure created. They had built a whole private stage, biggest drone show on the planet. Rihanna was flown in for a 45-minute private performance. Bill Gates was there. Mark Zuckerberg was there. The owner of Qatar was there. It was just filled with the most... It kind of was like something out of the movie where you would see the Rockefellers get together and plan like, what's going to happen in 2020, you know, or let's set the plans for 2030. Should we do another epidemic? Let's do it. You know, it was like an Illuminati meeting. It's so absurd and so obscene.
Did they tell you when the next pandemic is happening?
Yeah, they give me the insight. Well, I actually read their mind, and I know I have a clear idea of what's going to happen. So follow my course. You just have to buy it for $9.99. I'm going to release it tomorrow, and you'll get all the insights. And
viral product.
It's a viral product. But basically, I went to India, seen the top of the food chain with wealth, and at the same time, I seen it contrasted against this country that I'd never been to before. I've heard of it, but it's one of those things, and anybody who's been to India will know this. You have to feel it. You have to experience it. When I say there's a lot of people, you imagine a lot of people, times that by 10. It's like God accidentally sat in the controller of life and spawned a load of humans by accident, right? And he's like, oh, shit, I've just an extra billionaire in India. Hope nobody notices. You do notice. They're everywhere. And the infrastructure, the economy, nothing can keep up with it. So there's just homeless people everywhere. There's people with no legs. There's people with broken legs. There's people with infections lying on the street. There's no access to clean water. It's dry. It's humid. Like it's the worst environment you could ever imagine. And so I would see that in between traveling from the airport to this gig. It's crazy contrast of just pure black and white. It couldn't have been any clearer. And that's sort of what. And also the guy that I was with is this guy called Julius Dean, who is incredibly successful, one of the most famous magicians on the internet. And his whole obsession at becoming the most famous magician on the internet was fueled through his ego. And I've seen this so many time and time again with influencers, that the entire purpose is for their own self-worth, for their own self-pursuit. They're not really offering anything. They're getting all of this status and all this power and all this control, and all they do with it is fuel their ego. So, and I seen how shallow that was. I seen how empty these people are all on the inside, and that it's a never-ending game of never enough, and you're never going to be satisfied. So I tried. I'm going to have to give some pre-context to this context. Before all this, I was living in Mexico, and we were doing these videos. And these videos also were utilizing the psychology of a magic trick. And this is how we became the most viral page on the planet, was that we were doing these videos that would essentially biohack people's attentions. And the whole goal was to get them to watch to the very end. And it was incredibly shallow to do, incredibly fun to do at the time, incredibly challenging creatively to come up with concepts that people would have to watch every single day for a year. So the reason that we were doing that was, again, in the pursuit of money and in the pursuit of fame for this guy, Julius's Facebook page. And I seen him get to the top, and I seen how shallow it was. But yet I became this expert, this virality king, right? I got more views. I edited more views. I came up with more viral concepts than Mr. Beast did that year. And I was utilizing it for this guy's ego, for this guy's narcissism, essentially. And that was just so incredibly low for me. I thought I would feel so much better. And I knew that deep down there's a bigger purpose behind this. There's something more that I could do with this. And it was only whenever I went to India and I seen this sort of contrast that I thought, why don't I try and combine the virality with actually doing something good? And it sounds simple now, but it's exactly how Steve Jobs said it. It's only whenever you connect the dots, can you see the dots? Can you see the picture? But I was living in the dot, in each dot. Each chapter of my life was these dots. And now it's only in reflection, looking back, that I can see the mosaic. I can see the picture that it's piecing together. So long story short, I combined the idea of the hook, or the visual hook would be finding a homeless man in the street. And then to make people engaged and to make them watch it, they have to follow that storyline of me transforming him. So I find him on the street, and we transform him, we clean him, we shower him, we shave him, we give him clean clothes, we style his hair, we give him a hotel room if he wants it, we buy him a wheelchair if he needs it, if he needs medical attention, we take him to the hospital. And that's how that idea it was almost like an amalgamation of the world that I used to live in and this deeper sense of there's more to give. Content can be so much more than views and likes, which is why I also feel heavily detached from getting 1 million followers, because I've seen it happen, and it's not about that. But what excites me more is about the opportunities that can come from this movement, which is really my sole focus, and I think my purpose is for the next, as long as I can make it happen, is to pursue this and to turn this into basically a Make-A-Wish Foundation, where I still can help as many homeless people as possible. But the other format that I want to do is to use my following and use that power that comes with that negotiating power that I can take to companies and brands and connect that to somebody who needs it. So imagine there's a little kid whose dream it is to go to Disneyland and meet Walt Disney. Or meet Mickey Mouse. He looks at a coffin. He meets Mickey Mouse, right? It's like, gosh, he's looking a bit rough. He's been dead for 40 years.
Sorry.
So his dream is to meet Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
I can then use my platform, not for myself like every other influencer does. I have the power to use this platform to basically bring them two people together. I can go to Disney and say, look, I can make a really beautiful viral video if you fund and sponsor this little kid to come out, and we'll build a team. I'll be the organizer, I'll be the instigator, I'll be the middleman. Give me the funds, give me the access, and then I can go to these people and I can bring that to them. So that's the long-term goal with this, and I call it the butterfly effect of kindness. That's somebody asked me the other day on a call, how would you summarize this up in one message? And I love the tagline, the butterfly effect of magic, because it represents we're not here to change the world. The amount of hate that I also get under these videos of people saying, what did you do with the person after? And just to be transparent, I'm obviously not here to try and change the world. I'm not trying to there's only a certain amount of responsibility that I can take care of these people. But the idea is very simple. The idea is that one small act of kindness, one small little nudge can change the trajectory of that person's life so much down the line that it could inspire him to get a job. It could inspire him to feel this sense of self-worth again, that he's no longer homeless, that he can change his mind, he can change his mindset. So it's all about the small acts of kindness can go so far, so much further than you can see right now, because it looks like something inconsequential to us, but down the line it can have this huge impact. And that is sort of the movement. That's what I'm calling it, the butterfly effect of kindness. I love it. It feels right. And that's the whole premise, is to build a brand that I can use the success of that brand to help people that actually need it. And let me just be the instigator. Let me just be the guy pulling the two things together, you know?
And there's so much value that's derived from watching these videos, because I know multiple of them have already received tens of millions of views. And I think not just that's a big positive impact for that individual's life, but everyone who sees this, and kind of how I see that, and why do I enjoy watching this, aside from the storyline that you create, is when you see someone that has such poor circumstances like that go through that transformation and then become this other version, and it's like, holy cow, this is so wonderful. You see yourself a little bit.
For sure. And I think people also want to be attached to that because it's good. We live in a world where social media is dictated by algorithms, and algorithms do not have a soul. They do not have an emotional sort of empathy of intelligence of any degree, which is why we were able to biohack the world back during COVID by doing super cheap pranks. But we basically had hacked the algorithm and hacked the human brain system of like dopamine reward, curiosity. I have to watch this to see what happens. The ultimate puzzle at like trying to figure out life. So in doing this, why not? Why would we not try and create a world where it's to inspire people? Why would we not do this? And even whenever I'm constantly, every day getting tagged in videos in India of young kids going out and finding somebody homeless and shaving them. There's already like a little movement happening within India. There's maybe 100 kids out doing this right now, shaving people. They're seeing the success, they're seeing the numbers, they're seeing the possibility that there's a crying out of love on social media. There's a void for it. I'm trying to think of the right word. There's a vacuum what's the word?
It's a magnet.
There's a magnet for it.
Yeah.
There's almost this yearning for it, I think is the word. There's like everybody's secretly calling out for it, which is so beautiful to see. And it's wild where it's going. I can only transform them so much because I'm limited now that I'm getting more resources and I can invest more into it. Like imagine you took one of those little guys and didn't just give him clean clothes, you give him a house. Or you took him on business class and said you're going to the Super Bowl final. That's where I see this going. Or you take him eventually to space, or you do something just so ridiculous that it's like so touching, so moving, and it brings back so much dignity to these people, so much self-worth. Because it's so easy to judge a book by its cover. And every time we transform these people, we're sitting with them, we're talking to them, and I always have to pinch myself and be like, he was homeless 2 hours ago. Like, he looks like the most normal, kind guy. And he's 29 and he's telling me his story about life. And I'm just thinking, this is a normal dude. And I have to go back and look at the photo and say, wow, he was literally 2 hours ago, he was lying on the side of the street with nothing to live for, you know, with forgetting who he was in that process. So it's about like, the biggest thing is that it reminds them of who they are and what their purpose is. Because when you get lost in life, you lose it within yourself. And it's hard to find, you know, and life can be so incredibly taxing on you that we all feel it, we all go through it, you know, where you lose your spark, you lose that purpose, you lose that sense of definement of how you see yourself and your place within the world, and the outside world changes and then you have to internally change with it, and as that happens you can't adapt fast enough and you feel lost, you feel swamped, you maybe have a kid that's coming and you can't prepare enough for it, or you have a deadline at work. All of these things can catch up on us. And sometimes all it takes is that little act of kindness. All it takes is just somebody to come in and give you a little nudge and you're back on track and you can see where you're at. You can feel where you're at. You see your purpose come back and you're like, I'm centered, I'm lined, I know where I need to go. I'm not there yet. I'm not meant to be there yet. I'm not meant to be happy. I'm not meant to be fulfilled, but I'm just patient and I'm present and I'm getting there slowly. So yeah, there's a lot of parallels with everything. It's sort of this paradoxical world, and there's so many similarities underneath the cover of everything. And yeah, I love that. The butterfly effect of kindness. I think that's a really I think that's a really catchy. I think it's catchy enough to turn it into a trend. I think if I can push it and attach it to enough things, I can really make a movement. The end goal, of course, is with all of this is a merchandise line where I give a percentage of the proceeds to charity, and to build up certain charities, and so many avenues that I can take this that it's so incredibly exciting. And to go back to the whole story beforehand, I just feel so excited because I finally connected the two dots that seemed impossible for me for so long. I knew how to make viral content, but it made me feel really bad. And I love to inspire and give people hope and to connect with people. And for some reason, it's took me 4.5 years to get here. But I got there, and it was so difficult to get here, so incredibly difficult. I had a girlfriend at the time that was so upset with me doing these viral videos because she knew there was so much light inside. So she shined the light, and she dimmed the virality. Other friends shined the virality and forgot about the light. So there was these two assets that I had in my life, these two traits, these two skills, and it was just a case of how do I merge them together? And I clashed and clashed and clashed for many years until it just worked. You know, so patience is so important. Patience and failure. Just like I said before, you have to fail. There's so many video ideas I've done before this, trying to pursue that. So many magic shows I tried to do and concepts, trying to pursue that, but obviously was limited with the reach. And it was only whenever I could figure out how do I merge them together do I have some sense of an answer, some sense of a plan. But I was just patient, and I was resilient, and I was willing to fail. And I didn't see failure as the end goal. You know, everybody always says to me, it's like, well, how do I map out, what's the blueprint to get to my dream? You know, I was having this conversation with my girlfriend yesterday, where she was saying she just feels lost, and she's got no sense of purpose, and there's many things she wants to try. And I said, the only way you can possibly know what you want to try is to just start trying to do things. You know, like, whatever that list is, go and be a tattoo artist. Do it for two months. You will realize you do not want to be a tattoo artist. But in that process, it will give you resistance. And think of it almost as a catapult, like a slingshot. It will create tension for you really to push your mind at, like, go deep inside. What do you want to do? Okay, I don't want to be a tattoo artist. I want to be a hairdresser. And go do that. There's more resistance. There's more pressure. You don't want to do that, but you have to do that. You meet people along that journey. You're guiding yourself. It's a stepping stone journey. It's not, you're walking that path. And sometimes people think that they should have this path constructed before they start, rather than realizing the path builds only when you start to walk the path. It's a self-building path when you walk it. It doesn't build, you cannot build it before you start, if that makes sense. It's like building a Lego piece that you don't know the outcome, but you don't have the instructions to the box. You just have to start piecing them together. That's the perfect way to describe it, actually. It's like being given a Lego set with no instructions and no clue or concept of what it is. The only way that you can do it is to start piecing pieces together, feeling that doesn't fit there. Oh, this fits. We're onto something. I've got a corner. So it's like a puzzle. Life is this puzzle. And everybody sits and says, no, but I need to find the instruction manual. Where's the instruction manual? What's it look like? What could it look like? Let me look at the colors. Just do it. Just get stuck into it. And from there, you'll gather momentum.
You're the one who writes the instruction manual.
You write it, man. You're the creator. 100%. So yeah, I think trying to instigate it. That's what you need to do. You need to start making the movement and learning that the manual is something that you will create along the way, rather than it being this pre-scripted thing that you have, which is a huge problem I see for so many people my age. They compare. They see this blueprint that Lee has created, and they say, I need my blueprint. I want to do that. How does he do that? How did he get there? And they don't see all the failure and all the fact that I had no concept of this blueprint whatsoever. I just had a feeling, an intuition, an idea, but I had no instructions to follow. I just had failure to follow, essentially. So that would be my biggest advice, for sure, to somebody my age, somebody feeling lost. Just start walking slowly, and it will piece together itself, because you're the constructor of those pieces. It's an internal thing.
And you know what brings you energy, and pursue that.
Exactly. You're now gaining information to this puzzle. You're going and you're saying, this doesn't work, this doesn't feel right. Fantastic, but why? What does it feel? What feels right? What doesn't feel right? And you're pulling knowledge. You're constantly pulling knowledge, and then you can deviate, and you can then re-strategize your sort of approach and your angle to the next thing. All of this worked really well, but this one thing didn't. Okay, take all the good out of that, and take all the good of the previous mistake, merge them together, now go shoot again. And it's this constant slingshot that you're doing until you just, again, like I said, I was able to join these two things that at the time seemed so impossible to join together. Dude, I'd pretty much given up on making videos. 100% had given up on making videos. Pursued magic, came to Bali to pursue magic, sat down and said, hang on, I have this incredible talent. I was literally the most viral man, one of the most, part of the main producer of the most viral team on the internet for 2022. And here I am doubting my video skills because I cannot merge it with my true purpose. So I'd given up on that because to me it seemed impossible. It seemed, and then I had to deconstruct it and say, you don't even know what you're working towards yet. You don't even know what the end goal of that is going to be. You know that it's going to be an amalgamation of everything, but you don't know how those pieces are going to fit together yet. So don't throw that in the bin. Still pursue that. And it was only in pursuing that here that it basically led to the opportunity of me doing a video that then I got back in touch with this guy, Julius, that we then went to India. And for all of this, it's all connected in many ways. So don't get swamped by all of these concepts and ideas that you want to try. See them all as massive benefits, even if they feel, again, we say once again, the more it feels, the better. Mm-hmm. And they're all interconnected. It's not like these separate endeavors. They're all incredibly interconnected. Step by step, they're building that story of you, of who you are, and what you're going to create out of it. It's not like you take one step, you take another step back, and then you go build another step. It's one step after each other, if that makes sense. It's not 4 different paths. It's one long, continuous path. So I think that's the biggest way to perceptualize it with your mind at how it should look.
Yeah, in the way how it sounds like you're having all of this is whatever it is that you do isn't a waste of time. Mm-hmm. It either adds to the story or it tells you that the storyline doesn't go that way. Yeah.
The only way you can ever waste time is by doing nothing. Mm-hmm. The amount of procrastination is the biggest productive kind of purpose killer. Mm-hmm. Its sole purpose is to take you out of the present and into this thing that we call the future and the past, and to live in this sort of grey world around what's truly there. Whereas when you think about it, you never really procrastinate whenever you're doing something. Whenever you're doing something, you're consciously thinking about like a present strategy at how to either exit what you're doing or to either do what you're doing better. But it's only whenever you do nothing do you really just sit there and get lost in your own thoughts, if that makes sense. But if you're doing something you don't want to do, you're literally learning why you don't want to do that, why you thought it would be a good idea to do that, and what you would rather do instead. So, not to say it's perfect, but it's how you need to do it. You just need to move. You know, life moves. Nothing stays still. Trees grow. Even if they grow slow, everything is growing, everything is moving, everything is interconnected. You just got to stay moving, stay positive, stay present. It's not about this end pursuit of happiness that will truthfully probably never come. It's just about being present with what you have now and feeling what you want, feeling this sort of what you think of that end goal to be, to just feel it now, you know? There's a great guy that you should all listen to, Joe Dispenza, who basically teaches you within meditations you can feel the richness of being rich now without having the money. Feel the presence of being present now without being lost in your mind. All of these amazing things. Feel that sense of abundance now, rather than feeling like you need to get it at the end of the year with your salary up or whatever. Feeling that love of a partner now, rather than needing the partner. So really bringing you into the present and saying like, it's all here ready for you to feel. You know, it's chasing that carrot in front of you. You're never going to catch it, and it's never going to be enough. So feel the abundance now, which is so powerful. His whole perspective to life changed me so much. It really helped me a lot with I suffered from chronic pain in both my hands for 2 years. And it was only in discovering his book was I able to reverse that and to realize that perceptually how I perceived it was completely wrong. I thought it was a structural problem. I thought I developed some kind of rare disease. No doctor could cure it. No doctor could tell me what the problem was. I couldn't use my phone. I couldn't use my laptop. This was a huge component of why I basically gave up with doing videos, because I couldn't physically do it. And then I learned that it was all a mental construct that I'd put on myself. There was an original injury there that got strengthened as I didn't let it heal. So I basically programmed my brain to feel pain all the time, and it did turn into a small chronic a issue with my thumb. But the anxiety and the fear of that catastrophized it, where it basically spread across both my arms, and both of my arms is now in the same pain of the original injury all the time. And that all stemmed from my perspective. That all stemmed from my fear towards that pain, and the anxiety of me trying to control it, and that it would never go away. That I basically taught my brain how to experience. It's a really funny paradox at how it happened. And it was only in reading this book and in bringing myself back to the present moment and to sort of forgetting about that blueprint or that master plan that oh no, I don't have my hands. It was like, just be here right now and like observe it objectively, what's going on. And it's a great book, Becoming Supernatural. Have you read it? Have you seen it or heard of him?
I haven't. So Joe Dispenza, I know.
Joe Dispenza, yeah.
And did you also read a book called The Brain's Way of Healing?
I did.
Okay.
Fantastic book.
Yeah.
Such a great book.
So I'd love to kind of break that down, because I think that's every component of you, I think, is there's a thread of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
What I hear about your life as you grew up as a child is you were in something, but there was you were in a situation that had an alcoholic mother, and
Alcoholic mother, yeah.
workaholic father, but there was something within you that believed that you could transform out of it. And then the same thing when you found magic, it was transformative, and you were giving this to other people, and it was always this beautiful way of transforming reality into something different.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see that same thread coming with your videos and how you're helping the homeless in India, and then hopefully the rest of the world. And this relationship that you had with pain, I think, is very fascinating as well, because if you didn't have this belief of being able to get out of this situation or the self that you were in, I don't know if that you ever would have escaped from that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to dive into, so you had chronic pain, and I believe this was from overworking.
So this was from overworking.
Yeah.
And
as a video editor.
this was overworking. So we would produce the videos during the day, and the day in Mexico, which lasted for 14 months basically, and then a couple of months after that, sort of on and off. But the day would essentially look like me and my friend Tom would wake up, we'd roll downstairs, we'd pour a cup of coffee, it'd be 8 o'clock in the morning, we'd look at each other with exhausted eyes and say, what do we do today? It's day 300 of this, and we've made 900 plus videos at this point. And And we'd have to come up with this sort of viral concept. What do we think what would be an engaging hook? And that, basically, the goalpost of that got so broad at one point that we were doing sketches of like a lady giving birth at a cafe. Like anything that we could think of that would basically like hack that sort of attention of a person. What would they engage with? What would tap into their emotions? You know, that they would commit 3 minutes of their life to watch how this unfolds. So that would unfold, and then we would shoot it. We had a team of about 20 people. We'd have actresses and actors come in. We had a prop room and cameramen, and we had
Whole 9 yards.
A production. It was a little fleshed out production unit. It was very efficient, and we had it was a very beautiful operation. And then at night time, I would go back and I would edit it, and I would sit with the editor, and he would edit it, and I would edit it, and I would adjust it. And I'd done that for basically a year. So I pushed my body so far to the limit that whenever I did develop an actual injury, I didn't take any time off. I didn't let it heal. And it turned into chronic pain. It then spread across my hands because I basically lived for 3 months without letting this injury heal. And I got so attached to the pain and the anxiety of that pain that the fear of that fueled more pain. So if you get bitten by a tiger, the next time you see a tiger, your nervous system is going to go into overdrive, adrenaline is going to dump, cortisol is going to spike, and you're basically going to say, stay away from that, that's dangerous. And that's what I was basically applying to my hand. I was saying that anything my hand touched was dangerous because it was providing me pain, it was giving me pain. So I was very conscious that using my laptop was giving me pain, yet I'd push through the pain. And then I developed this really odd relationship with things that I was very consciously aware and subconsciously heavily unaware that I subconsciously unaware that I just should have rested, but consciously aware that like I can't use my phone. I can only use my phone for 30 seconds, so I'll be fast. And I'd be in pain for 30 seconds, and I'd set it out, try to breathe through it, and then I'd go back to my laptop. And it became this sort of battle back and forth with the pain. And that created this really dangerous cycle of fear fueling pain and anxiety. And then that would fuel more pain as a safety mechanism because my body was screaming, this is dangerous, run away. Like, this is causing you pain. This is not good for you. It was sort of this ancestral kind of defense mechanism that we have as humans. You know, if you get stung by a jellyfish, you now know not to touch a jellyfish. You're going to be alert and you're going to be aware that there's a jellyfish behind me. Don't sting it again. So I was
like a child touching a hot stove.
Exactly.
You learn to not touch it and you walk away.
Exactly, yeah. 100%. And the biggest way that I could also describe it is you just remind me of a beautiful example. Imagine you have your child. Your child's 2 to 3 years old, very young, and your child falls over. The first thing that will happen is they will look at you to see how you react. Okay? Now, if you freak out, the child's going to freak out. If you be very calm and supportive and caring, the child will just brush it off and act like nothing's happened. The same relationship I learned through this book happens with us, our bodies and our mind. Your perception of what happens to your body is so linked to how your body will react to it. Okay, so you might find sometimes that you burn yourself and don't even realize that you've burned yourself, or you've cut yourself and you'll see blood and you'll be like, I'm bleeding. It's because you weren't perceptually aware of it. Or sometimes you cut yourself and you're so perceptually aware of it, you see a lot of blood and you freak out and the pain's 10 times worse than what it would be. So I learned through this book that pain is not a one-way system. It's not X equals Z, per se. It's kind of X can be anything to a degree. Z could also be anything, and like they're communicating with each other and can change what the value of each of them are to some degree. So they give another example in the book of it's a known phenomenon called phantom limb, and it's where people with no limbs still experience the sensations of having these limbs. So they were able to do brain scans, and they were able to learn that the brain has a roadmap of the body within itself. So you have the physical body, and then you have the sort of, let's call it the neurocircuitry of that body within the brain. These sort of sequences that have fired and wired together to create like, this is what the toe feels like when the toe moves. And you can see it laid out. It's like a sort of, it's like a tree sprawling out of all these sequences and neurons and networks, all like a roadmap, all connected. That represents the body and the brain. So whenever you lose a physical leg, it still lives there in the mind, in the mind, which is very fascinating. So what was happening was the fear was fueling the pain. The pain was not healing because I wasn't allowing my body to heal. Then the pain got more intense, and I got so anxious of the pain and so scared that it would spread that basically my hands and my other hand became so heightened to that feeling of pain that I started to experience it. And it was just this sort of like spiral effect downwards and downwards. The more anxious I would get, the more painful I would get, the more scared I would get of it never healing, the more I would feel. The more I used my phone, the more I would feel. So it got to the point that it was just 24/7 chronic pain in both my hands. I got stem cells. Went to multiple doctors. Nobody had any answers for me. There was no sign of this. It's called neuroplastic pain. It's only like a new thing that's coming out in science through these guys' books and their researches. So it wasn't really a common thing for doctors to be able to diagnose it, but it was incredibly depressing. It was the toughest 2 years of my life. From being a magician where I need my hands, and my hands are a huge component of my performance, of how I act and feel. You know, I use my hands when I talk. And to be stripped back from not being able to edit, not being able to pursue my passion, which was editing and performing magic, was so debilitating, man, honestly. It was genuinely the darkest period of my life. And I was very fortunate that I built up savings from the first time in Mexico, so I could financially support myself. But it was so difficult because there was no explanation. Every month I had a new sort of concept of what was going on. I was constantly in my mind thinking, it's this. I would talk to a doctor or a specialist and they'd say it's something completely different. It's a herniated disc. Oh no, you've got a neurological disorder where the neurons are slowly eroding and that's why you're experiencing pain all over your body. All of these different silly things. But anyway, the point was, it was challenging. It was really, really difficult. And within this book, he teaches you how to, once you understand that, and once you understand that the pain is coming from the top and not from the bottom, if that makes sense, and that structurally everything is fine, the fear disappears. So the fear is almost like adding gasoline to a fire, right? If you're scared of something, it heightens it and it's going to get more intense. The moment that I could remove the fear that everything is going to be okay, and just to sit with the pain and to objectively observe it as it moved around and changed. Within the course of about 4 days, I was completely pain-free for 2 years, after 2 years of experiencing pain, within the course of about 4 days. Truthfully, I would say within the first day of listening to the podcast of the guy who wrote the book and then getting the book and reading it, after the first 1 or 2 days, it was pretty much 95% gone, the pain. I just started using my phone and I would experience pain and I would almost laugh at myself saying, this isn't real. This is a mental construct. This is an illusion that my brain is telling me that I am in pain, because it was perceiving the sensations of movement as pain because I was in an injury for so long. So it was feeling the pain from the injury for so long. I was adding so much fuel and anxiety to that it then perceived any movement from any other part of my arm as pain, if that makes sense. So it was like this, because it thought anything I touched was dangerous, because there was this now association that my phone was dangerous, my laptop was dangerous. So I'd almost developed this sort of illusion in my mind that the pain was real, that anything that I touched was a real pain, and I believed then that there was something wrong with my physical arms, but there wasn't anything ever wrong. I just had a small injury that turned into something disastrous across both arms. And just like that, the pain vanished pretty much within 4 or 5 days. Completely pain-free. After 2 years of constant pain every single day. So just to be clear, there's two kinds of pain. There's structural and then there's neuroplastic. Or there's two sort of sources for pain. Not to say chronic pain is a myth, but if you break a leg, it's very evident that the reason you're in pain is because the leg's broken. And that will heal and that should get better. If it heals, but you still experience the pain, then it's turned chronic. Your body's got so accustomed to feeling pain in the broken leg that it now perceives any sensation coming from the leg as pain. So neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're wiring together and firing together pain for 4 months, that basically gets embedded in like your hardware to some capacity, right? If you learning how to pick up this cup, it's so embedded, you've done it so many times, you don't even need to consciously think. It's just subconsciously you know how to do it. You've built that neurocircuitry in your mind map. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing with pain and thought patterns and outlooks and emotions and how you react in certain situations. They're all things programmed into your brain, like a coder who's programmed it in. And the more that you do it, the more neurons that fire together will wire together, and the stronger that connection gets. You know, if you teach, if you get awkward whenever you were 17 at approaching a girl and you never get over that and you do it for 6 years, that's gonna be so strengthened into your subconscious hardware that you have almost no control over it at this point. It will just overtake and override you every time you meet a girl. You have no control over it. Or if you have an impulse to get angry whenever something doesn't go your way, the more that you do that, the more you strengthen that behavior and the more persistent it's going to be and the stronger that it's going to be for you to fight against consciously. And it's just, you're wiring it into your subconscious. So within this book, I feel like I've talked so much about this already. Within this book, he basically steps you back, learns how to bring you into the present, learns how to bring you back into your subconscious. And it's only in the present moment can you wire together and fire together new neurons, new circuitry, new feelings, I could sit and I could perceive myself looking at my hands and telling myself there is no pain. I'm deconstructing that thought pattern that I had constructed for 2 years. I was unlearning a bad behavior, essentially. I was unlearning a bad
Maybe your acceptance of what movement was that you associated it was always pain. So your mind said, yes, this is pain.
100%. I would look at my laptop and say, this is not dangerous. I am safe. I would constantly tell myself, I am safe. There is no danger here. The tiger is an illusion. There's nothing for you. Thank you. Thank you for warning me. Thank you for sending me these signals in my hands. Perceived as pain as a warning sign to protect the body, but we are safe. I'm telling you now, you can trust me. I'm looking around, we're safe. And there was a huge element of finally discovering what it was, which is why it disappeared. But after about 2 months, it came back, which is no surprise, which is testament to the science, which I didn't get lost in. It's testament to like, this is a sequence that I've been exercising for 2 years. Of course, it's not going to vanish like that. So the placebo hit me when it happened, and this sort of almost this massive dopamine rush of like, and this like release of like, now I can understand what's happened from a neuroscientific perspective. So I had about 2 months of total pain-free. And then whenever it started to creep back, I had all these exercises that I could do. And I could even look at it creep back and be like, if I just went from 2 years of chronic pain to 2 months of pain-free, obviously there's nothing structurally wrong. So it almost backed the science up, and I was almost proud that it came back, because then I would have this opportunity to implement the real work that you have to do, which is present, be extremely present with your meditations, and tell yourself this mantra: you're safe, you're fine. Thank you for looking after me, but I do not need protected, kind of thing, which was really fascinating. And then if you can do that with chronic pain, if you can do that with certain behaviors of chronic pain, you can do that with your own self-belief, you can do that with your own, any addictions that you have, any problems that you have, you can apply that same mentality that we are plastic, right? We can mold and bend and change and constantly evolve. You are not stuck to this pattern that you are right now. You can absolutely change. No matter how ingrained and embedded something seems in your life, you can absolutely change it. Neurons that fire together wire together. So if you start to fire together new sequences of improvement, it's going to fire together, and eventually, the body and the mind is a great recycling plant that it doesn't keep anything it doesn't use. So now I experience zero pain because them neurons of connecting pain to movement haven't been exercised in so long that my body's just forgot about them, got rid of them, and it's now built the new neurons of safety, of things are fine. So you can do that with mindset. That's the biggest thing with mindset, it's always the most difficult at the beginning. The more that you do it, the easier it gets. And the reason being is because from a neuroscientific perspective, you're wiring together these new sequences off whatever that is, and you're dropping the old pattern. In with the old, out with the old, in with the new, as I would say.
So in walk me through, so it's really just self-talk, communication, or a huge component of it.
A huge component of it. It really is your so there's that, but it's also, if you're struggling to do exercise, for example, and you're constantly saying, oh, I don't feel good while I do exercise, for example, you're strengthening that emotion to the exercise so much. Then if you do that for 4 or 5 years and I take you out running, and after the run you say, oh, I feel horrible. I thought you were meant to feel good after this. Well, you've conditioned yourself to feel horrible. You've told yourself. So you have to just constantly push through that. And in her running and in her getting that serotonin release, that endorphin release, eventually she might not realize it, nor she might not feel it at the time, but she's strengthening new neurons to fire and to wire together. She's associating, happiness, subconscious happiness anyway at the beginning, because she maybe hates it so bloody much. But like there's an association of positivity with running, and she can feel that, and the body feels that. Whether you like to feel it or not, the body's going to experience it. So there's many practices. You can do it in person. You can do it with meditations. Hypnosis is a pure form of that, essentially. You're going straight into the source of the mind and just telling the mind to overwrite the subconscious sort of software of the body or the hardware of the body. And you're just changing that flick of a switch almost. And it gives you the same placebo that I just experienced, that whenever I understood that the neuroscientific perspective of what my condition was, that it was able to go away like that. It was almost like a magic trick in many ways. It was the ultimate magic trick. I had just convinced my mind to let go of the pain, and it was able to do so. So you can do it during meditations, you can do it walking, you can do it's all your perspective to yourself. And it's really simple. At the core fundamental, it's your own self. There's two people here. There's four people here right now. There's me and you, and then there's a voice inside me, and there's a voice inside you. And the voice inside us is constantly in dialogue with ourselves. And all it takes to change your perspective and to change your outlook and to feel different about life is to just change how that voice talks to you, and then you got to look at how do you change the voice, right? How do you change the voice? And that voice is programmed to work a certain way. So all you can do is, which is why meditation is so brilliant, because it brings you right to the present with that voice. Exercise is fantastic because it again brings you out of the mind and into the body. But it's going to be very, very difficult. It's not like you can all of a sudden control the voice. It's the exact opposite. You're learning. You have no control over it. Is why you're in this predicament, because it's got its own way of thinking, its own its own sequence of thought patterns that it's adopted, that you've give it over years and years. We're incredibly plastic. Whenever you look at you look at your parents and you say, oh, they're stuck in their ways. It's a very common thing that you would say. He's stuck in his ways. He's not going to change. And that is because the brain's capacity to change, they've done 65 years of walking a certain way. That imagine somebody just came around to you the other day and goes, you've been walking wrong, you're meant to do it backwards. They wouldn't be able to adopt, they wouldn't be able to change because how they walk is so subconsciously programmed. So the big thing is to remember you're young. I think plasticity really only slows down drastically once you're like past 65. It's incredible how plastic the brain can be. So the brain is incredibly plastic. You can truthfully change it to however you want it to operate. It's not that you're limited to feel a certain way, to think a certain way. These are all just things that have been adopted on top of you. You can change that through meditation. You can change that through movement. You can change that by going on a walk. You can and just simply coaching yourself and talking to yourself and say, for the next 1 minute, I'm just going to say this one mantra. You are amazing. You have an incredible self-confidence that is so much stronger than you think. Smile, smile, smile. And if you do that for 1 minute every single day, you're strengthening that. That's going to get easier and easier and easier until the point that you can just do that subconsciously, naturally. And you can practice it in public, and then you can do it more in public. And it's sort of this snowball effect that it's difficult to roll it at the start, but when it picks up momentum, it gets easier and easier. Them neurons die out that you want to kill, and new neurons get constructed, and new sequences get constructed. So that was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever encountered in my life. Everything else was kind of in the real world that I could control, but that was an internal battle. That was something internal with me that I had to really sit down and look at myself with. That was by far the most difficult transformation.
Yeah, I imagine it was also incredibly challenging as well, because it's not that you were passive about this. You went and sought help, but everywhere that you sought help was a closed door that said, hey, you have X, Y, Z, and then you took stem cells, or you might have taken medication for it, and it didn't repair anything.
Didn't do anything.
And so how did you come across Joe Dispenza's book and then The Brain's Way of Healing?
My ex-girlfriend at the time, she brought it out to me, and she said it. I remember the day so clearly. We were in the library and I was looking for a book. I love to read history books. It's all I actually read is history books. My ADHD and my my attention. It can only just go into history books. It's the only thing that will captivate me. And she comes and she says, my mum read this book years ago to heal from cancer. And unfortunately, her mum passed away from cancer. So not that was a strong case study to follow the book straight away, but it was a completely different story anyway to why that happened. But so she sat the book down, and I remember reading it, and it looked incredibly kind of out there, very abstract. You know, you would sort of look at it, and
I think that the for many folks and myself, as I'm hearing you and trying to apply this to my own things, is I see challenges with this in the sense of starting out seems like a challenge, and then also there's 29 years of my life that have proven belief in one way, but it feels like, and it sounds like the path in order to truly transform is to let that 29 years of the past die in some sense, and then to disassociate with that. Because like when I heard you describe the man who was 60 years old who had walked the wrong way, it's like, what do you mean I walked the wrong way? It's been 60 years that I'm walking the right way. And so no, I believe in it because you're living proof. And at the same way as it's so nouveau or so new that it's like, oh, this sounds quite out there. But
it sounded so out there at the time. I remember reading it and being like, this is too much, surely. Because he isn't, so his book is very broad. He's actually not looking at chronic pain. He's looking at any kind of pain in the body.
This is the brain's way of healing, this one?
No, this is Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural.
Okay.
So his is like the big opening blanket. And he's, when you go on his retreats, which I looked into, it's people coming with that can't walk, it's people that do have cancer, it's people that have all kinds of diseases, and the results are incredible. Like, just go onto his website and look at his testimonials. It's truly one of the most, I think we're going to look back in this era of sort of pseudoscience of what he's doing, and we're going to be like, this is like the golden age of something completely new. You know, that we've lived in a world of medicine where it's all physical, it's all in the body, but it's not in the mind. And to now see the bridge between the two, and he's purely focusing on the mind and elevating that when you can combine the two, it's really quite incredible. So I really urge you, like, it sounds airy-fairy to some capacity. Go have a look and tell me what you think.
And decide for yourself. I love that.
It's fascinating. You think I'm a good example. Like, there's people in his retreats that haven't walked for 25 years, and they get up and they start to dance. It's wild. And it's from doing these really intense meditations and this sort of collective energy of people in person. It will only cost you like $8,000. So like, it's absolutely, to do these retreats.
But worth it if you haven't been walking for 25 years. It's just insane. I mean, you always hear people on their deathbed and like, what do they wish for? It's not more money. It's more time healthy. And so no, it's wild. And I do believe it in the sense of 2 years ago, I remember trying a mantra or affirmation thing that was written by Naval Ravikant, and it was, I think it's love yourself like your life depends on it or something like that. And it starts off really simply with just saying, you just look in the mirror and you say, I love myself 3 times, and then you continue looking and you point out things that you love about yourself as well. Like, I love that I smile or whatever. I love that I have thick eyebrows, whatever it is. And then that in itself will have so much of an abundance of confidence and love and all these incredible things that stem from it. So it feels very similar. Yeah. And
it's very similar actually.
Yeah.
It's all the same principles. It's all the same concept. Imagine you had a flower and every day you poured acid on it 3 times and you watch the flower. What's going to happen to it? It's going to wither away. And that is what we're essentially doing to our brains with these negative thoughts. But if you take that flower that you've maybe poured all of this, dare I say acid, I think acid would completely destroy it, but non-nutritious water, deionized water, maybe that will still water it, but something that's obviously not good for the flower. You do that for 2 weeks, the flower's in a really bad state, you take away the sunlight. You can then take that flower and water it again, and you'll see the life come back. You water it 3 times a day, just like these happy thoughts. And if you keep doing that, you will see life will come back. Everything is made to grow. Nothing is stagnant. It's either going to grow in a good way or it's going to grow in a bad way. And you need to water yourself with the most abundant water you can find, and that is positivity, self-love, having zero, the word has just escaped my mind, positivity, self-love, and what am I trying to say? And this like limiting belief on top of yourself, you know, like don't be so harsh on yourself. In a nutshell, like feel that abundance, give yourself that abundance. You deserve it.
All of this keeps feeling like we keep going to like
it's all in a circle.
Yeah,
It's all. That's what I'm saying. There's this underlying theme to everything, and I think that in essence is what my story has always been about. I keep finding new things that's in that theme, in that recurring theme, and it's getting better and better, and I'm learning more and more about it. And I feel like now I'm at that sort of apex of like what it's became. It's like this ultimate baby to some capacity of like, people say to me, how did you get a video that's got 90 million views on Instagram? And they look at it as this overnight success thing, but it's really been this challenging 4 or 5 year journey of doing everything that I've been doing. So yeah, it's there's definitely that underlying theme for sure with everything.
It's transformative, and it's all these things that you mentioned of going back to this childlike state. Magic always puts you in the present moment, accepting the pain that you have, going back in the present moment, and these incredible transformative videos of homeless folks putting you in the moment, giving you that hope, and going back to this childlike state. It's so you said this earlier of just unlearning, and I keep just thinking, when the fuck did we just learn all this bullshit? It's like we're just throwing it in front of ourselves, and it's just getting in the way of what is most valuable. And just like, you like believe in yourself, believe in your ability to overcome this pain, or believe in your ability to do this. And it's the thread. It's a thread within your whole life.
I remember hearing this one time. We live in a global village.
Yeah.
You ever heard somebody say that? We live in a global village, and 100 years ago, you did live in a village. You knew 100 people. You were all close. Now I know what all of my friends are doing all over the world, as if they're beside me right now. I meet people in the street, and they congratulate me on what's happening before I've even spoken to them, because we're all connected, right? And we're all born into this pre-connected, without sort of consent, without sort of, hang on, is this even a good idea? I'm just in this world, and you have to adapt or survive, or you have to swim or sink. You know, you've got two choices. And it's so incredibly difficult, and even to swim, and even to try to swim. So it's like nobody's taught how to swim. That's really it. It's like you have to swim or sink, but nobody teaches you truly how to swim. And when you do learn how to swim, you're maybe not swimming efficiently. You're maybe not utilizing all the body parts. You're maybe just kicking the legs. So we're born into this pre-constructed world, which isn't what we wanted to be in. And we're taught this sort of limited way at how to survive in it. And it's left up to the mind then to piece together this construct of like how to do it. And we look at everyone else, and we compare, and we try to steal this and that. And it's incredibly competitive. And I think if we can just see it for what it is, and to see that just like my pain, there's no danger here. I'm actually fine. It's not as intimidating as it looks. Just have fun with it. Don't get so caught up in it. It doesn't matter what it thinks of you. All that matters is what you think of yourself. Fundamentally, you will have a far better outcome in life if you could adopt that. If you can switch, again, that perspective in the outside world looking at you to just you looking at yourself, and being your best friend, being your true best friend, you know, which we say is so easy, but it's so incredibly difficult, you know. Like, not to say that I constantly slip up. My personality traits, you know, as blessed as I am to be this person, it comes with a lot of downsides. I'm incredibly difficult in many areas of my life that I find a lot of resistance with. My ADHD can kick in really bad sometimes, and I find it impossible to keep afloat with my own self. So it's very easy to look at somebody and say, oh, he's got it all figured out, hasn't he? How did he figure it out? But everybody's going through their own challenge, their own battle. And you just got to learn to accept it, you know? Stop living in this fairy tale that life is going to be bliss and colourful, because it never will be. But you can be, right? Like, that's really the key, is like, you can be in this horrible world. You can't change more. We live in Mordor to some extent, you know, but like you can change how you feel about it. You know, you're not going to change this outside world. It's constantly going to rain on you. It's constantly going to be thunder and lightning. Some days will be sunny, but it's going to be unpredictable. You know, it's like the weather. It's like you can either just. I'm from Ireland, so we learn to enjoy the rain. It's a thing, and there's definitely that. There's definitely at the core of everything is with many things that we've said. It's like just change your perspective to it. You know, like. It's you. It's all there is you and you. You know, that's all that matters. Stop. We look so far out to the horizon sometimes that we miss the shore in front of us. You know, we miss like what's around us, where we're at, who we're with.
You have everything.
We have it all. It's all here, you know, and it's all inside. And we look so far to the horizon that we miss the beauty in front of us sometimes. I think that's kind of what I was trying to say there, is that you're so fixed on everyone else sailing their boat to the horizon. Look at that. Look at where they're going. Look at the ship that he's built, rather than being like, oh, there's a really cute cat underneath my boat right now that I'm trying to build on the beach. You know, there's little beauty everywhere. Find the beauty everywhere. Find the people. Make them smile. You know, when you're in the shop, I always like to say, when you're in a shop, turn around. If there's someone behind you, buy whatever they're buying for them, and just say, here you go. It costs you like a couple of dollars. And like that little interaction, right, where it gets priceless, isn't in their reaction. It's in them trying to like understand what's happening. It's almost funny to some degree because they're so shocked. They're almost in denial. Their systems are kicking into place. This doesn't happen. You know, what's he trying to... And you can watch them sort of deconstruct what's happening and then fall back into their heart and be like, oh, he's actually doing something really kind. Thank you so much. And it's that kind of like, when you say it to them, or if you do it to them, they're, and then they're like, oh, actually, this is a really nice thing that he's trying to do. So it's the little things, man. It's the little things in life. Yeah, I just want to keep saying it, the butterfly effect of kindness.
Butterfly effect of kindness. Yeah. Where do you find joy in your little things in today's life?
Making people laugh, for me personally, I think is such a joy. I think seeing an effect that you can have in someone, and changing how they feel, is such a precious joy in so many ways. I'm naturally very happy, so I guess a lot of it just naturally comes to me naturally. Like it doesn't take. I could go outside and just scream and laugh, or look at something and find an interesting thing about it. But I think it's just I think I always feel a sense of like we're so lucky to be alive. Have you ever seen somebody die? You've never seen someone pass away?
No.
I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and we were in Mexico, and her mum passed away from cancer one night.
Well,
and it was whenever we were together.
You three were...
It was just me, her, and her mum in Mexico.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And we rushed her to like this really sort of run-down hospital to some sense, and it was all very chaotic. It was 2:00 in the morning. She started breathing heavy, and it all sort of happened, you know, talk about a snowball effect. And 2 hours later, I was holding her hand as she took her last breath. And in seeing that, I'm so incredibly difficult to watch, but so beautiful at the same time. Because good things don't last, because if they did, they wouldn't be good. And it was just like the ultimate, wow, like, fuck, we're alive. Went past a funeral today on the way to the waterfall. The contrast between that funeral and my granny's funeral a year ago, again, night and day. They were all wearing white, celebrating life, you know? And again, it's a beautiful example of this inner talk that we have with ourselves. And I feel this inner negative talk is how we celebrate funerals in Ireland, where it's very depressive, it's very sad, you're mourning over the loss of something. Whereas if you can flip that mindset and that perspective internally with yourself, just like the Balinese do, and just like I did that night whenever I watched my ex-girlfriend's mum pass away, is of like look at the joy and the love that we have in being alive. You know, what a blessing, you know, rather than seeing it as something sad, which of course it is, but to see the good within it and to be like, yeah, we're all going to pass away at some point, but that's even more of a reason to live, to celebrate, to like enjoy color, to like and get your feet in the grass, get muck, you know, on your fingers, and like jump in a waterfall, and like do all these incredible things that we can do. And it's just another testament. Again, it's like you're only here once. Make it fun, you know, and to appreciate the little things. And it's so easy to then live a life full of joy because you realize the importance of it. You realize that to even be here right now is such a blessing. You know, like how awesome is it that we're sitting in a room right now, just us two chatting about life.
It's amazing.
You know, the amount of people in this world that would kill for this situation right now. We have time. We have. It's going to be a beautiful evening once we go outside. Life's great. How could you not, right? It's one of those things like when you're really awake, how could you not find joy in it? You know, there's no having to find joy. It's just understanding what the actual game is. How could you not be already joyful? You know, it's like, are you forgetting that one day this is going to end, and you're asking me how to find joy? It's like you're forgetting that you're in the game. You know, it's like you just think that you're in this sort of world of where like time is irrelevant, and like things are still and things will never move, and that everything is how it is forever. It's not the case. Things are moving, and that's where you find your joy. That's how you live in that joy. You know, it's like, yeah, I think like good things are good because they don't last forever. You know, it's like you ever have that relationship with someone and it ends and you're like, I cannot. Might have ended for a bad reason to many cases, but like sometimes a relationship ends and you're like, it was so beautiful to have that.
So
like
beautiful.
what a joy, you know. You don't.
Yeah.
You can see it because it ended. It's only when it ends do you see the beauty behind it. You know, whenever you're in it, you're kind of lost within it. You're caught up within it. But when it's gone and it's end and you can't cross that bridge anymore, you look across the valley and you're like, that's a beautiful hut I was in. Now I can only see it because I'm looking back on it. But once you're in it, you can't see it. And just that reminder that like it's the same with life. You know, so every day should just be a day of like poke your friends, make them laugh, do something silly. You know, so I find it really easy, to be honest. It's something that I've always had since I was a kid. Life's just so fun. If I'm honest, I just enjoy it so much.
It is.
The highs and the lows, the difficulties, the lessons you have to learn, the challenges you go through. It's absolutely difficult, but there's also fun in that too. You know, I'd rather it be difficult than to have nothing at all. You know, to feel something is everything. You know, it's so much better than feeling nothing. You know.
My mom always tells me the attitude of gratitude. And it's similar to what you're saying is...
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah,
the attitude of gratitude.
And it's how you described it of you can't choose what's going on, but you can choose how you show up. You can choose how you feel. And I think that's so beautiful. And it's always when we start to look around and have more and more gratitude that we realize that, you know, like you were saying, is the evening is beautiful. We've got hands that work. We've got eyes that can see and ears that can hear. And as soon as we start to remember that those basic things exist within us, we start to look around and say, holy cow, like I'm so lucky for a roof on my head, for the friends that love me, my parents that care about me, and all of those things. But the life of abundance, even the lows, are beautiful, like you said.
Yeah, there's still something.
There's still something.
It's something. Something is better than nothing. You know, it's like, oh, there's just so much warmth and color in this world that it hurts me so much that so many people are living in this sort of black and white filter. You know, and I think I almost feel some sense of responsibility that I need to crack that. Whatever that filter is you've got in front of you, I'm going to crack it. I'm going to try my hardest to smash it, to pull it down, and to let that light of life back in. You know, so I'm always walking around looking for people with their sort of helmets on, their sort of masks and filters on, to some sense.
Those are the ones that need magic the most.
They need the magic, you know, and the magic is the ultimate little icebreaker. You know, the reason it's called an icebreaker is because it literally breaks the tension of this bubble around us. You know, life is a fun game we've got.
It's a fun game.
And not to take it too serious, you know, like there's really no consequence again off life. Life is one of those things that, just like going up to that person that you don't want to talk to, or that nervous situation that you're scared of, there's no actual consequence of it, right? Everything we have is free right now. All of this, it's free. It's all for the taking. There's nothing to lose. We came here with nothing. You're going to leave with nothing. This is all a win. The highs, the lows, it's all a win. Everything's a win. And just seeing that mentality and like how that can again change your perspective, you know, it's you're conditioning yourself for that rather than conditioning yourself for this sort of negative outlook on things. And the more that you do that, the more that you just adopt this carefree sort of perspective to life, it's gonna get strengthened within your neurocircuitry of your brain. It's going to stay stronger and more prominent, and you're going to feel it more and more to the point that you don't even have to consciously think. You'll just wake up one day and you'll say, I'm naturally just happier and more carefree than I was a year ago. And then you'll remember, they're like, oh yeah, remember I had to go through those 4 months of just mantra every day, the self-talk to myself every day, the walks in the park every day, encouraging myself, saying that things will get better. That's what does it. And then you're in this state of just pure abundance. And you're like, if I'm already here, where else can I take it? Can I get even happier? Can I do even more? You know, what if I could infect somebody else with this concept and bring them up with me? And then we bounce and radiate together, and then we bring other people, and it's like this collective umbrella that just floats and rises to the top. We learn how to swim, essentially, together.
It's beautiful. My friend Tom just shared something recently that's like, when the tide rises, all ships, or when the tide increases, all ships rise.
Mm-hmm.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, which is why, again, your social circle is so incredibly important. Yeah. You know, I'm sure we've all heard it. It's like you become, what is it like? You become you become
the
basically
the
average of your 5 closest friends. Yeah. Correct, and that's just such an incredibly potent thing. Like, surround yourself with like-minded individuals. If you find somebody that has something that you want, not in a materialistic sense, but like, oh, why has this guy got a spark? Why has he got this sense of abundance? Mm-hmm. Just be like, lean into that, learn from him, ask him, feel it. He'll give it to you, you know. And if there's somebody that's got this incredible discipline, and you think, how is he doing all this, and how is he so productive? Lean into that, learn from him, connect with him, and he will share it. And again, that tide will rise, and you will share your knowledge, and it's a collective web of ships all in the harbor together, which is really awesome. Yeah, like your tribe is super important. I'm really blessed that I've got some of the friends that I have in life. They're all amazing humans in their own wacky, weird way, which is awesome.
They're all a reflection of you. There's
always an element of me in them somewhere, and there's always an element of them in me somewhere, which is really beautiful, you know. And as they grow, I grow, and it's our duty to bond together. Community is so important, you know. I think as you get older, you realize how blessed you were to have a school that you've seen consistent friends all the time, and you realize that you could have all the money in the world and all the followers in the world, but if you're by yourself, that's a lonely, depressing place, you know. And we live, again, in this global village where it's all online, and it's all on social media, and it's so shallow. And I think that's one of the difficulties nearly with Bali, is that a lot of people are coming in and out, that we were saying, which can make friendships quite difficult, and it's hard to establish kind of a sort of community to some capacity, which is why our run club is solid, because it's like the same lads consistently going.
It's so fucking nice.
It's really nice. It's like therapy.
So fucking
it's like
nice.
I can go with the boys. The missus isn't there to give me a headache, you know, or like I can say my funny jokes how I want to say them, kind of thing, and so nice. You can just step into that like boy attitude to life, which is really nice.
It really is, man. Yeah, just play.
Just play.
It's play, man.
Just play. It's another thing. We don't play enough in life.
No.
You know, you forget how to play.
Yeah.
And magic is a form of playing for me. Communicating is like a form of playing. You know, that idea of like sort of self-deprecation is almost, I think, one of my funnest ways of like, let me do something funny to me to like relieve the tension of everyone else.
Yeah, it's such a great way of inclusiveness. Of like you were saying, is like, hey, I can tell that you might be a little bit anxious or awkward. Like, I'm a fucking goof, so let me just make sure.
Let me spill my milkshake on me and make me the idiot, and then show you that there's no harm in that being an idiot. Yeah. It's the ultimate, like, you're good. You know, like, look at this. If I can do this and be untouched, they'll look at that and say, how did he not freak out? You know, how do you not like go
That's
all
the
red?
most embarrassing thing ever.
That would
but
kill
yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. If that was me, I
Yeah.
would have had a heart attack. And you show them that it's a mental illusion that they're projecting on themselves. You know, that there's no consequence of that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which is community, playfulness, all so incredibly important. And relationships.
There's a prescription that I feel is like Lee's list of a good life.
Lee's list of a good life.
What would you put on that list?
Relationships, friendships, but true friendships, you know, not just workmates. You know, I would say like people that you can be 100% honest with, and if you don't have people like that, find them. You want people that know everything about you,
And still love you.
Still love you for just you being you. Top of the list has to be meditation. Second has to be some form of getting outside of your comfort zone, whatever that may be for you. Magic was my muse. It's how I could exercise that. But some form of daily self-deprecation to some extent, or self-embarrassment, or self-growth. That is where you will live in this sort of, you'll live in the edge of that comfort zone where life really lives. That's where you really live on the edge of it. And when you live a life constantly on that edge, it's fun, it's free, it's loose, it's exhilarating, you know. Eating good food, like, gosh, cut out the crap. Alcohol, you know, I stopped drinking alcohol, and that's been a massive benefit to me. Look after your body. It's so incredibly important. It's fundamentally like one of those things that if you want to feel happy without doing anything, just eat good food. You know, it's like the best prescriptive drug to happiness I could give. It and exercise. Exercise is just so incredibly important. Celebration, you know, like pure celebration with yourself. Act like a kid at least once a day. Be like a dinosaur once a day. Like imitate a T-Rex for a laugh and just do something a child would do. That would definitely have to be my list of, I'm sure there's many other things I could think of, but
I think it's a fantastic list. So I'll try and read that back. So Lee's list for a good life. We've got meditation at the top.
Meditation right at the top.
We've got relationships. And
Relationships.
we've got friendships, but true friendships. People who know you and people who you can
Really
tell
love you. And
everything.
really can understand you.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And then we have embarrassing oneself, which I love is a great take on taking risks.
Taking risks. It's the ultimate. It's that I would nearly put that at the top if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like if I had to single out one thing that I think is going to have the biggest and most impactful thing, of course, exercise and food is a fundamental for how the body works. But from a mindset perspective, doing something that pushes you outside your comfort zone, and magic is a great muse for this. Go pick up a deck of cards and learn a very easy magic trick. That's where the real magic lies, and that's what I found was like how I could cultivate this sense of power to some capacity, you know, or to like this strength of like untouchableness to some degree. So we have that. What was after it? Then there was
It was
be a child,
be a child, yeah, and so food, exercise,
meditation, self-deprecation, and then be a child.
be a child.
I feel like there was something else. Was there?
The friends, there was the friends, there was the
the friends.
relationships. I think it's a pretty solid list.
It's solid. I feel like I'm missing something fundamental.
Possibly run club with the lads.
Run club with the lads. It is a must. If you're in Bali, jump along. We'll have a whole tribe running behind us.
The whole fucking city.
Yeah.
Running through the street, just.
And I think the biggest and another big thing is to drop your ego, to drop that constructive voice on yourself. That's, I don't know how to articulate that in one word, but
Is it
that negative self-talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Just let that go. You know, just live a life where you're not so harsh on yourself. You know, like so many people do so many amazing things, but their biggest thing holding them back is what they say to themselves. Is this inner dialogue that's so toxic, and you know, it's like having this nasty best friend that's constantly bullying you. You know, and how are you gonna shine bright like a diamond if you have this person who's
Rihanna?
You know, I'm like
Yes.
selling. But how can you honestly shine bright like
Yes,
this diamond
yeah.
whenever there's somebody sitting chipping away at you and somebody covering your light, you know?
And it's you.
And it's you.
It's you,
You can
yeah.
turn it off like that.
Yeah.
You can do all these
Or
things.
it's not you. It doesn't have to be, right? It's
Right.
inside of you, but you
It's
can-
inside of you, and it's this thing that you've
Yeah.
adopted.
Yeah.
And it's you, but it's that isn't saying that it's you tomorrow, right? It's you now, and you can change it tomorrow. You can change. That person can change. It's not this prefixed thing that's installed inside you. You know, you can take it out and say, well, I don't like that. Let me get a better one. You know, and like continuously build a better one. And there'll be remnants of that one, but that will fade, and this will get stronger. And yeah, dude, I just think life is so pure, can be so fun. Hurts me so much that some people don't allow themselves or give themselves the space to feel that. And if you can just allow yourself that space, if you just give yourself that worth that you can feel it, that you should be feeling, you're the one alive, you're the one living here and breathing here.
You deserve it.
You deserve it.
There's
for
no
sure.
reason why you should feel anything other than abundance and love and gratitude.
Exactly, you know, and shitty people, stay away from shitty people. That's another big thing in the
Yeah,
list. If you
true,
see
true.
somebody shitty, smile at them and just walk right past them. Don't get caught up in their bullshit. So easy for people with all of their own insecurities to pull you into that web,
Keep you down.
and keep you down, you know, because they can't stay up.
I feel like a really good way of determining that is when you share something with someone and then how their reaction, say that you take the risk or you just started something new, and if they're ecstatic and you can feel that they're ecstatic, like, dude, that's fucking awesome. I can't wait. That's when you know it's real. But if there's someone who's like, oh, you know, like there's not the exact same excitement that someone might have for themselves doing that, then
Yeah.
I think that might be an indication of like, okay, hey, be wary of this person because they see your success as intimidating. Or they see your path as intimidating.
Right.
And it's like, no, you want to be around people who are like over the moon joyful
For
with
sure.
you just going on your path, and it makes you so happy that this person close to you that you love is making the mistakes, walking up the mountain and finding purpose and meaning.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Very easy, I think, to distinguish.
Yeah.
When you present it in a format
Yeah.
like that, you'll know straight away. Intuitively, you'll be like, this guy's, he's in it with me or
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah.
And also, I think we have to learn to accept that it's okay to let people go. You know, it's very easy to become an adult and then to like live in this world and be like, well, these are my friends from school and this is the world that I live in, and it can't change because this is what I'm in. This is me. And it's like okay to recognize somebody's a good person, but they're not the right person for you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's quite liberating because there's something out there that you haven't yet found. And that could be friendships, relationships, whatever. But just in acknowledging that it's okay for something to be seasonal, you know, to some degree.
Totally. You always hear like, don't burn bridges, but I think that there's another saying that should go along with that, where don't burn bridges, but cut away anchors. You don't need to keep an anchor. You know, your ship needs to sail, however you want to say it as a metaphor or whatever, but
That's great. You hit
don't
the nail on
stay
the head.
hung down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So true.
Yeah. No.
Because there's a lot of shame and guilt that can come with that, right? There's a lot of
I should have. It's my responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
should be there, and it is challenging because you want to. There's definitely friendships that were seasonal, and in the same sense as you don't know how much you should invest, I guess, in something that might require change, and then. It is challenging to know, okay, when to step away, when to continue, when to step away,
and with a lot of friendships, even in the older sense, you let go of the anger, but you never lose those coordinates. To some, you let go of the harbor. Let's call it a harbor.
Yeah.
But you know how to go back there.
Yeah.
And you always can say, "This is my boy. This is my harbor. I can sail back. I've just traveled the world. I can come back and I can pitch up for a bit." But you're not restrained there. You're not caught up there. You know, it's a stepping stone again. It's like you're expanding your horizon, your map of things. Some friends you'll sail to every week. Some friends you'll only sail to once a year. You know,
that's a really good way of. I love that. And then there's different harbors that you'll go and dock at.
Exactly.
Depending on where you are, and you have to stay true to yourself and the journey that you're on. And you could always visit that harbor, like you were saying. And
you can and when a storm comes and you feel it coming, and you say, "I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
I need to go to my boy's harbor because he's on the other side of this ocean and he's got, you know, this." He's got this, you know, lifeboats that I need for my ship in case
I'll bring you some provisions from these
exactly.
lands.
You know, like the seasons change, you know, and life's
Yeah.
is always changing, and it's okay to be like, it's my time to leave.
Yeah.
And not to let that hold you back, because there's also a lot of fear and doubt. Again, what's that person going to think of me? Is this bad to do that to them? And you're literally sacrificing and ignoring the most important thing in the room, which is you. It was this guy in your head, which is everything. Again, to everything, it's always about your perspective, rather to the outside world.
Yeah, I think there's a really good lesson in not in like total selfishness, but in the sense of when you are doing what's right for you, you're doing what's right for the world. So when you're cleaning up, you know, your own life or cleaning up the direction in which you're going, like that will only bring joy. It'll only bring benefit to the whole world.
For sure.
And it's like if you deviate from that true path, then it's a fault to the world. It's a fault to everything.
Right. It's so true. You're absolutely
how
right.
How could you deviate from that?
How could you not, like, I'm trying to guide you. I'm giving you all these signs, you know, like, how shit do I need to make you feel when you're with this person for you not to catch on, like, maybe this is not where I'm meant to be right now.
Yeah.
Or how shit do I make you have to feel being in this country. Maybe this is not where you're meant to be. Maybe how many times do I have to get a Bali advert popping up in your phone before you're like, maybe I should think about just quitting my job and going to Bali. You know, and it's like, you feel that inside. I always feel like it never goes unnoticed. It will build and show in some shape or form. It will either come out in physical or mental. But the more that you ignore that intuitive gut instinct, it's going to emerge. It's always shining a light. It's always guiding the path. It's always showing you the way. But you just have to, again, be present to see it and then to feel it. At the moment you get lost in the material world and what it thinks of you and what you should do to it, for it, in its service, as if you are in service to it rather than yourself, you'll lose that guidance. And it'll be like this fire in the inside of your belly that you can't scratch. But you feel it there, and it builds, and you can ignore it, and it will build, and you can ignore it, but eventually it's just going to explode like a volcano. And again, perfect example, my hands, I ignored it. My body was talking to me saying, you shouldn't be doing these kind of videos anymore. You should leave and pursue something else and think about a way it like, it's great that you make money and it's great that you're going viral, but is there not more to this? Could you do something with this talent somewhere else? And I didn't listen. I kept working. I said, I can't take any time off. I can't go home. I didn't go home to Ireland for like a year and a half. I was like, I have to stay out here. I have to work. This is amazing. We're going to the top. To the top of what? You know, like, again, this is like in the outside world. It doesn't matter. Are you at the top and the inside? No, you're at the bottom. You're at the bottom and you're deeply unhappy. You're not listening to your like authentic self, what you want to do. And again, one of the reasons why I didn't do it was because I didn't have the blueprint. This idea that I needed to like, okay, well, if I quit, this is how I'm going to do it and this is what's going to happen, rather than just taking the leap of faith and saying, one small step at a time. Let's figure out the hands first. Let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. Instead, I was like, I had to have it all figured out, which is why I didn't leave in many ways, right? Yeah. So it always just stems back to like coming back to the core presence of looking after yourself, of caring for yourself, of following your light, following what feels right. And
you'll never be prepared.
You'll never be prepared, and allowing yourself to do it and allowing yourself to make mistakes. You know, life is for living, it's not for planning. That's a good
damn right. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Like, it's true.
Life is not for planning, it's for living.
Yeah.
That's fucking, or how did you say it? Life is for living.
Life is for living, not for planning. You know,
amazing.
It's like, you need to fucking take the plane at some point and do this trip that you prepare for so long. It's like, do you remember whenever you were a kid and your parents would plan for this holiday that you go on, and they'd pack, and it'd be like months leading up to it, or Christmas is coming up and you feel the anticipation, you feel the excitement. You get on that holiday, or Christmas passes in a day, but you go on the holiday and you're like, boom, it's gone. That's it. Now we're back to school, and I've had another year of waiting, of them planning, of them saving, of them preparing. And it's like when you're in it, you realize that doesn't require so much anticipation for it to some degree, you know. And it's kind of like life is just for living. Like you can only plan for so long before you will get pushed out the gate. And when you're out the gate, you will realize that, is this what I was so scared of?
Yeah.
Is this it? You know, I was so anxious and worried about this, and this is what I've been missing. This feeling of passion, of love. You know, and you're like,
Time to get living, baby.
time to get living. It's such
Time to
a
get living.
fear in our minds of what it is, and when you're in it, you're like, wow, this is not what I. There's no boogeyman behind the closet here, you know. It's just love and dopeness, you know, like sickness and stuff.
And the butterfly effect of kindness.
The butterfly effect of kindness.
Yeah.
I really just love that. I think it's so pure in its essence. Yeah.
It's beautiful alone because the saying is will work in itself like a butterfly effect. Like it's so well that it'll just spread everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so easy to overlook something so small and minute. You know, we often, just to go back to it, we often feel like we need a blueprint of everything. And it needs to be this, well, if I'm going to help someone, I'm going to do this grand thing. Give me a couple of weeks to prepare for it. And it's like, all he needs is just a little touch, you know, and keep giving little touches, and that will set off a chain reaction that, you know, and it's just to get going now. Yep. You know, don't wait. Like, yeah, the butterfly effect of kindness. It's a nice one.
I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the most.
You get it
very
when you hear it.
succinct.
You get
it's
it.
so good. It's so good. Well, man, Lee, you are someone who gives energy whenever you're around, and I'm so grateful for this conversation. I feel like I'm coming off of a high after this. It's fantastic.
We're gonna have to go and shake the bodies after this.
Yeah, we will, man.
Or like jump in the ocean.
Yeah, truly. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. I've got all of these questions that I put here, and so much that we just
and so free flowed with it. Is there anything that you can see that you would like to touch on?
Let me see. I think there might be some
that we could touch on quickly.
I think there might be an interesting one around growth, which I think is like more so just on the business component, which is when you were, because you figured out what is really hard, which is how to go viral.
Right.
And I think I'm curious if there was a recipe that you copy and pasted that was like, okay, hey, this is something that ended up working really well. I know with Julius Dean's page, you guys did the hook and then the lead up to it. But yeah, is there any other recipes or pieces of advice, that you have for really, really high velocity growth for social media?
So what we done with social media was it's kind of incredibly generic that you can apply it to anything. And it's kind of like this medium that you can put over. If you're doing a cooking video or whatever you're doing or whatever style of video you're doing, I think you can just apply that same formula of like captivating hook, progressive storyline, where it's constantly evolving and there has to be an element of curiosity, so an element of a surprise. So the hook is something's going to happen. The progression is it happening and getting more intense, like the climax of a song. And then there's the big drums and payoff. And there's the kind of like reveal that, look at how the salmon turned out. You know, I've got a salmon, I'm going to bake it in Doritos. And like you see a Dorito bag and a salmon bag, and then you're hooked. You're like, how's this going to look? And I'm not going to cook it. I'm going to cook it in my toilet, and I'm going to boil the toilet water. And it's like you're in, and then you have to kind of watch to see what this concoction will look like.
It's so wild, all of these different steps.
It's just so silly and wild that it's
I fucking love it.
So there's that element of like going viral, but I think in a deeper sense of how to apply this to like anything in life. When I've spent a lot of time with successful people, and living with Julius was a real treat because he taught me a lot of very valuable things, and the biggest thing that I could take away from anything was consistency. Is just so important that anyone that I look at that has been successful, they haven't just given 80 or 90%, they've went 110% in on it with full belief, with full self-confidence and a bulletproof attitude that I'm going to fail so many times and I can't wait to fail, and I'm going to just keep going. I'm not going to have any setbacks. I'm just going to push through all the noise that life will throw at this. And we essentially, although it looks like I've just went viral again, it's like I've been consistent for 4 or 5 years, just constantly having this in my mind, tweaking and changing it and trying to push together with it. So definitely, like, in terms of just a business or anything that you want to achieve in life, it's like grab it by the neck and just go in 110%. Manage your mental and physical health while you do that, but you have to just fully dedicate. Like, put the blinkers on. Don't look behind you. Don't look at what everyone else is doing. Don't stop to look at the failure. Just learn and go and keep going and keep running and keep going and just, yeah, man. It's so easy to say it when you've to some sense made it. But when you're in the thick of it, you're thinking, how much further do I have to go? Gosh, this is exhausting. I'm seeing no success. And success doesn't come in this linear graph like we spoke about. It comes at the very end when you least expect it. So just keep going. It's stop measuring things by if you could stop measuring it by a form of success of like this materialistic world by followers and money, and you were just measuring it off effort put in, basically. Like, how much effort are you putting into it? If you're hitting that 100% every day, oh my gosh, you should be so proud and happy. And if you can just continue to do that, you will see everything else come as a byproduct of that, And definitely standing out from the crowd, looking at your own unique twist that you can apply to it. And I would say for me, the biggest thing was, as I worked with this guy, Julius, before, for me then to switch this all up and to do it for myself, the biggest thing that I find, one of the biggest limitations that I put on myself, was my ego was so attached to like my small magic brand, because I kind of was this popular magician from Ireland that was doing magic with some crazy celebrities, that I'd sort of created this niche that I thought I was. It's like, who am I to start posting a random video of me cutting a guy's hair in India and changing him? So my ego was so incredibly attached, and I was looking at it through the lens of from me going through me to the world, rather than just objectively looking at the world and saying, what could I pull from the world and use me as sort of a vice, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So
as the medium,
like, I'm just the painter, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I was sort of so attached to like the idea of what the painting was going to be. And I just allowed myself to be a vessel. And then I could go out and I could find the most popular paintings in the world and just replicate that, if that makes sense. Rather than it being like, does that make sense? I've sort of lost in this analogy.
I remember genius, the word in Greek philosophy, the way how it was described is like, you weren't a genius or genius wasn't like the trait of Robert. It was more so just genius that I embodied, where ideas flowed through me. Mm-hmm. And so this is essentially how I'm understanding this, is like you removed yourself from being the painting itself, but more so being able to interpret what the world has.
And then paint whatever it gave me, essentially, rather than being like, well, I can only paint in acrylics because I'm X, Y, Z. Yeah. This is who I am.
I'm attached to this brand.
I'm not a watercolor guy. I've never done it. And I just let everything go of who I was and was like, drop this persona that you have of yourself and of what other people think of you. And then just start at the core, fundamentally. What would this world love? What would be a really beautiful story? Like, what would people and like, my videos, I don't speak. The videos that have went mega viral, it's a couple of the reasons, and just off the bat. Anybody in the world can understand it, just like magic. I'm not speaking English. If I spoke English, it would be heavily limited to a certain audience. The music that I chose is the third most popular played song of all time. So there's a subconscious element that people are watching it, but they're also enjoying just listening to this song that they've all heard from 10 years ago that they're now rehearing. So there's a nostalgia effect to it. So there's these little tricks, but the biggest thing is that, like, I allowed myself to be adaptable and to do anything. I dropped this sense of like my own self-identity of what I was beforehand. And now I've created something now that it can flow through me, the right thing can flow through me, and it can really expand. So there's that.
That's incredible. Yeah. And just not getting in the way of your own work, not getting in the way of the genius that comes through you, or how you interpret the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting so connected to the past of what was, because it's like more like what could be, ahead of you.
The windshield is bigger than the rear view.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
It's nice. Well,
A lot of great little quotes coming out of us here. We're like poets, and so we are.
putting a quarter in, we're just popping
Yeah,
these things
every
out
now
like
and
crazy.
then.
Yeah. Well, man, are there any other things that you have wanted to speak about, or anything that is currently inspiring you? I think we've covered so many things, and really the intention. That sounded like something. The intention that I had with you was.
what are we at time-wise?
I think I guess we're a little bit over, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The intention was really just understanding. So I wrote my intention with this is to understand the creative chaos that embodies you.
Right.
And this was so wonderful. Actually, one question that I was really excited about that I want to ask is You have reserves of ideas and energy that explode wherever you go. It is evident here. It is evident anywhere that I've been with you,
Yeah.
and any videos that I've seen.
Yeah.
How do you manage the internal excitement and know how to convert that into action? Because idea to action is one of the hardest things.
It's so difficult. Truthfully, I don't manage it.
Yeah.
Right? I actually don't manage it whatsoever. I'm just lucky enough that I will come up with enough random ideas that one will hit at the right time, that I can captivate it, that I can turn it into some sense of. I'm constantly farting ideas. I'm constantly like just bursting with like thoughts and patterns, and that is chaotic for me, and it's a chaotic life that I enjoy to be chaotic. It's like it's like you're always just on a coffee all the time. It's like the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And there's always these little seeds. It's like I'm planting these seeds of ideas, but sometimes I plant so many seeds that I can't find the first seed that I planted. And truthfully, I find it very difficult. There's no real way. It's kind of just you learn which seeds are good and which seeds are bad. You just get a better understanding of like, I'm going to give 100 ideas today, but I need to I'm fine-tuning my perspective to like really remember the good ones. And you feel it intuitively as well. Whenever you give a good idea, you kind of know it within yourself. You're like, this is a winner,
Stop down.
Keep it, but keep them all there, and to never look at an idea and get, this is all like, and to get so attached to it. It's okay just to like, there's an idea, cool, put it over there, have another one, shoot another one, come back to them later and have a look. But truthfully, it is chaotic. There's no systemized sort of, I've forgotten a lot of good ideas, and it will have to come back up to me again at some point in a different form of some kind. So yeah, there's no clean answer to that, and I'm very chaotic with it myself. Like you've seen,
I love it.
Things just come to me all the time.
I love it, man, and I hope that you never stop, because it is. I've talked with friends here that have we've shared on how inspiring it is being around you, and how big you think is also so wonderful to be, because I can't remember who I was speaking to about this, but what's so inspiring about this is when you see other people hitting ceilings that are even higher than you might have understood before, you then also see yourself in that person. It's like, oh my God, like if Lee can like, Lee's found a path, like, and he's built this thing for himself, like I could find my own path as well. Like,
right.
There's so much potential in it. And so you are so inspirational. We've known each other for a matter of 4 days. And the first time we met, it was wonderful. And I think we do have to wrap it up here.
We're going to have to wrap it up. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother. That's such a sweet
man.
message.
Yeah.
You're also such a great communicator, a great person.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I can help you to some degree of some
Tremendously,
kind.
man. Yeah.
And we'll talk about it after, but like this is
Yeah, thank you, Lee.
Thank you, man. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, let's cut it.
Let's cut it.